You're unmuted,
Thank you.
I wouldn't want to do anything without talking to him.
Tim.
We just talked about.
Yeah.
Yeah, he's in favor.
Okay, just use the chair. I want to make sure.
Yeah, 100%. Unless he's been lying to me for the last 5 years.
Only put his drinking in.
I'm
I've seen those in
that
action.
second hand.
I can't see it.
I haven't, but
It's like right there.
I'm committed.
Thank you.
Yeah.
I'd like to call this meeting to order, Benzie County Board of Commissioners. Today is August 8th, 2023. We're in the Frank Walter House Boardroom. Roll call, please.
Cunningham. Here. Not.
Here.
Markey.
Here.
Nye. Here. Roloff.
Here.
Sauer.
Here.
Worsakki.
Here.
Everybody present.
Please stand for the invocation and the pledge of allegiance. Dear Lord, thank you for the opportunity to serve the citizens of Benzie County. We ask for your guidance with the decisions we'll make today. Please keep all of our public safety personnel safe and free from harm. Also, I would ask to pray for the Zeitz and Strobin families and the loss of grandma, mom, wife, dear friend. Name of your son, amen. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic which contains one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Please be seated. Today's agenda in front of you.
Make a motion to approve the agenda as presented.
Second.
Motion and support. Is there any further discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? So move. Minutes from July 11th.
Just have one question. Yes. We made that motion to allow Gilmore to go ahead with their planning commission thing on Article 9. They sent them a copy of the draft minutes. They wanted a approved set. By approving it today, they're gonna do it today. Oh. This my word should work. I guess is all I'm asking. That they were approved today. Thank you.
If they get it.
I move to accept the minutes as
Well,
presented.
thank you. I was gonna suggest that.
Real second.
Thank you.
I just a couple of, go ahead.
No, you don't.
Tammy and I talked yesterday, it was just some typographical issues. But Tammy, did you talk to Gary about that one piece where it said attended the Village of Beulah meeting regarding the runoff?
Yes, I did talk to him about that.
Okay, I just thought that needed some clarification.
Yep.
Okay,
And then I just have one other sentence for clarification under the county administrator's report. The last sentence, our office has been thankful for Sherry Taylor and her assistant. I think it might mean to say and her assistants.
Yeah,
Is that?
Art had talked to me about that
Okay.
yesterday and I corrected that
Okay.
also.
Okay, thank you.
So we have a motion and support. Is there any further discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye, opposed? So move. Brings us to our first public input. Is there anybody that would like to share this morning? Seeing none, we'll close public input, move on to finance. I'd look for a motion to approve $985,680.70.
Mark, you'll make that motion.
Thank you, sir.
Second.
Evan,
just a
Motion.
couple of questions.
under further discussion, yes. Go
Okay,
ahead,
All right.
go ahead.
And Katie, I realize that you've been out of the loop, but under seasonal road patrol, I'm curious, those speed signs that we put out or the sheriff's office puts out, is that in addition to what the contract calls for those communities or?
So the contract spells out the different cost, and so for the jurisdictions that the speed trailer is associated, it's called out in that agreement. So it says this price for the hours, this price for the speed trailer, those things are called out in there. So that's how it's in the agreement.
So when I see an expense in here, that's at some point offset by whatever the townships agreed to pay.
Correct, yeah, so
Okay.
we'll shuffle money to make those different lines whole as needed.
And if you'll give me just another moment, Chair.
If I can respond to that, some entities, and I believe Honor is one of them, that has their own traffic sign that they own. So that's not a county responsibility.
The village of Thompsonville does too.
There you go. Thank
All
you.
right. So some of them that we see around actually belongs to the entity.
Yes. Yeah, because honors agreement specifically doesn't call for the speed trailer, but then the others do.
Do you have any sense of how much we paid our project manager, Mitch Shapiro, year to date?
No,
Okay,
I'd have to log in and look.
so I think the last time we saw this, we were at about 16,000, so another 4, he's about 20 then probably.
Probably, yeah,
Okay,
because he did put in, after the agreement with, having Grow Benzie assist, he did put in that invoice in addition to his time for invoice. So, but I'd say right around 20 at this
Thank you.
point without looking.
that's all I have. Thank you.
Thank you. Anybody else? Roll call, please.
Not
Yes.
Markey,
Yes.
Nye,
Yes.
Roloffs,
Yes.
Sauer,
Yes.
Worsakki,
Yes.
Cunningham,
Yes.
motion carried.
Thank you. We're gonna drop down to elected officials and department heads. Anybody like to speak? Nate, did you have something for us? Doug? Well, don't everybody jump at once. Oops. The normal routine would be, I'll be brief.
Is that the request or is that what I'm known for?
Just a suggestion.
Good morning. First off, apologies that you all do not have a Maples dashboard in your packet. With your last meeting being canceled and our last board meeting needing to be rescheduled, I opted to not provide it. I'd like to give you a more updated copy here for your next meeting that also reflects our July. So I'll have that in your next packet. But give you just a little snippet of what's going to be included on that. So far, over the last several months, actually, we've been operating at near full capacity center. We are able to accommodate 76 individuals right now because we are still required to maintain bed purposes. At the time, we have not been notified by the state as to when that will conclude. But once it does, we'll be able to be back to our full 78. We're also working with our legal representatives to pursue certificate of need that would see our licensed bed count go from 78 to 80. But we have 80 accommodations and like serving 80 families. Certificate of need is not a quick process. However, we believe that the state will grant us those 2 additional beds once the process is. So that's coming down the pipe. I hope to have more solid information for you on that by the beginning of. Also, looking at our contract staff, we've been trending in the right direction. We've seen approximately 25% reduction from our peak of contract staffing here over the last couple of months. At our highest, we had a total of 24 contract staff. At the moment, we are now down to 16. And this is really due in part to increase of applicants as well as retention of new staff and closing the back door. We've had a CENA in each one of our orientations for the last 3 months, and we have 2 more in our orientation. So we're trending in the right direction, and we're truly grateful for that. However, I don't want to be anything less than transparent. I do expect that number of contract staff to tick back up a little bit. We currently have 2 full-time nurses that are on extended medical leave, and I have another nurse and a nurse manager who will be going on maternity leave next couple of weeks. And for a nursing home of our size, to be down 2 nurses and 2 nurse managers simultaneously is it's extensive. That's something that contract staffing to help shore up those. But we do expect all those people to return or to having them back. Or days cash on hand going right in line with our contract staffing and with our census, we're seeing our days cash on hand back up. So at our lowest, we were at 110 days cash on hand. Over the last 2 months, we climbed back up 100 days cash on. And we're slowly but surely getting back to our managing goal. So those are the metrics that you'll see in our next dashboard. Looking at things going on in the community that we've been able to participate in this year. We've had a lot of resident outings, several Pit Spitters games. The Joy to Ride has been a highlight for residents all summer long. We also held a first for the Maples Summer Fun Day. This included water balloons, squirt guns, small kiddie pools, and we actually made an ADA accessible water slide for residents. Used a piece of, I guess you'd call it a carnival tent that we laid down on the lawn, approximately the length of this room. And one of our employees brought in one of those great big 2-person tubes that you can pull behind a boat. And so very carefully, very cautiously, we were using resident care lifts to set residents on those. And then you had me and 3 other staff members, like a team of horses, pulling people up and down this water slide. So we had a lot of fun with that. And we've actually gotten a lot of interest in doing it again. So there's been good fun to be had. We also have residents going out to county fairs this week, and then also, forgive me, Manistee Fair, I believe, following week or 2 from now.
If it's around
The following. So we have residents going to county fairs pretty much all of this week and all of next week. So good time. Also, for you all, I mentioned that we are going to be having sort of a public open house for residents, families in the community. We have eyed August 18th as that date, and I'll have a formal invitation to all of you. The theme is a luau, so if you have a Hawaiian shirt or grass skirt, please wear it. We're going to have a menu.
I got a shirt, I don't have a skirt.
So
I'll make it work.
there will be a special menu, and of course, family, friends, the community are invited. We'll also be holding a car show on September 9th, and residents are going to be voting to identify which car they like. And hopefully we have 1/3 of our parking lot resealed and restriped. And if the contractors are able to make it happen, those cars for that car show will all be sitting on nice, pretty. We also have a tabletop grill exercise planned for September. We've invited Chief Cedarholm of the Frankfurt Fire Department. We'll also be inviting other EMS responders, 911 dispatch, or 911 dispatch, excuse me. And also the local fire or local police department in Frankfurt. In tabletop drills, this is an exercise that we're required to complete on an annual basis, where we create a mock scenario. We take our policies and procedures and we walk through the procedure, whether it be an adverse weather event, power outage, something that our emergency preparedness is required to be responsible. And then the local first responders, they participate in this exercise with us. They give us feedback on how we can improve our policies and procedures, and also just help us continue to build the relationship and making sure that if ever there is an emergency at Naples, we know what we're doing, they know what we should be doing, and ultimately we know what to expect from our responders. So looking forward to that. I'm sure it'll be a good learning process for all of our staff. That in a nutshell, I think, is what I have to update you all on. Is there any questions that I can?
Any questions?
You know, COVID was over last month. There been any changes to your institution because of that or no?
So the changes, so what we are looking at right now, we have been able to be mask-free for the last couple of months. We are still required monitor for COVID signs and symptoms of any new admission. We are also required to test upon suspicion. However, now that COVID has reached its end, we have a surplus of COVID tests, somewhere in the tune of 3,000 tests. But we haven't had to use any for the last couple of months. So knock on wood, we are feeling like it's normal again. The biggest change that is currently in front of the Maples right now has to do with our COVID vaccine policy. So CMS has ended the mandate for COVID vaccines in skilled nursing. This is something that many nursing homes, both for-profit, not-for-profit, and county entities, are looking at changing. Primarily because the COVID vaccine mandate has been a major barrier to salary and to hiring individuals. So this is something that we are actively investigating right now and are planning on presenting to our board here in the very near future. Given the amount of, or the lack thereof, of COVID activity, it may be prudent for us to head that direction as we continue to look to fill open positions. However, recognize challenges that COVID has presented over the last several years, and it will not be a decision made light. So that's probably the most pressing COVID update, but God willing, everybody has been safe, has been healthy, and it has not been an impact to either our residents or our staff. Really, we haven't had a single case now among residents or staff. That seems to be what we're seeing at the county levels as well, with county positive tracking. So I'm cautiously optimistic.
Appreciate it. Any other questions? Thanks, Nate.
Thanks, Nick.
Thank you.
Luau, August 18th, our show, September 9th.
Thank you. Doug?
Good morning, Doug Duran from Benzie Senior Resources. I'm here to present our draft 2014 budget. Does anybody have any questions before I get started?
Right here.
24, did I say 2014? It's the meds I'm on, sorry. 2024.
It's only for the record.
Yeah, I know. I don't want to go backwards. No, anyways, any questions before I really get into details I can answer first?
I have a question, but I think you may
Okay.
answer it
All right.
in your discussion. I don't want to interrupt
All
the
right.
teacher before they have a.
All right. For revenue, for the budget, we're not expecting really anything coming from the state or federal level at all. The state of Michigan did pass a $1 million one-time increase for home delivered meals. But as of last week, the Michigan Aging Community Living and Support Bureau, which oversees that, has not come up with a plan on how to distribute those funds. So we're anticipating, but again, that $1 million is spread out throughout all the home delivered meal programs around the state. So the impact I won't know. Federal level, everything is pretty much, if they do pass the budget, it'll be flat funded. If not, a little minor decrease. So I did not really anticipate any increases in the meal programs. If there is anything, it'll be a positive flow, but not by much. As far as the waiver program goes, about 30% of our in-home clients are waiver clients. We are not there will be no increase in reimbursement rates for our agency, even though our costs continue to go up through wages and supplies for our staff and all that good stuff and travel. As So that puts more of a pressure on grant writing, fundraising and donations. And I think you might be aware that we did hire when my assistant director left for a different position. The board and I talked about, our future as of right now. So we did hire a fund development director, Kelly Ottinger, who was previously employed at Bacon. I was very lucky to pull her out of retirement to join our agency, at least for a couple of years and stuff, to get us off the ground and a new framework for fundraising and stuff. So her and I have been meeting pretty much continuously to map out some strategies. And we've had a very successful year this year with grant writing. And I expect that to continue with her expertise in that field and already establishing some new contacts there. So on to our programs that we offer. So far, July has been our highest home delivered meal counts for the fiscal year written this year. So I don't anticipate any changes there except a gradual increase. Our in-home services, we have now the last couple of months since the merger is our highest number of clients we're seeing in home. And kind of as Nate has said, the need for care continues to expand. So with that in mind, I am proposing to our board to terminate the Lawn Shore program to use those funds to really concentrate on the bath, the snowplow removal, the meal that people need to sustain living independently. We will work with the community and find out other entities that may be out there that could help with mowing the lawn and stuff like that. This year we're still doing it this summer. That's a given, but it'll allow people a year to plan ahead for next year and stuff. So that was a kind of, it's a painful decision, but to be in the reality, we are the only COA in our region that still offers a lawn shore program. I know having a nice lawn is very important to a lot of people, but bathing, a meal, providing respite care is also very important to maintain their independence living in their home. So in order to move funds around, the trend is out there. That's the decision that we made, hope to make. Other than that, we just had our walkathon this past Saturday and it was very successful. We had an increased number of walkers and that has become a very important fundraising event and we'll move ahead with that for 2024 with the emphasis of fine tuning it a little bit more. On to expenses. Right now, the state did put in the budget for the last couple of years. There's been a direct care worker increase for our workers that take care of under contract waiver clients. And that has equal to $2.35 an hour. The state has put into this budget another 0.85 cents. So that's good for our staff who are seeing those clients. It boosted their salary up and in a good positive way. But again, the state department is still working on how that will be dispersed. I don't know what they need to work on. You just disperse it. So that will be beneficial to our in-home healthcare staff. Again, 30% of our clients are waiver clients that we see. So some of the staff will see an increase in their wages are seen as well. We had a 10.3% projected increase in our Blue Cross health plan. And so we worked with our carrier and changed policies, tweaked it a little bit so that we won't have an increase. So across the board, the plan, there'll be a little bit more deductibles charged to staff and their percentage of contribution, but I think it's a fair plan to help compensate that increase. For food costs, working more closely with, we've done seasonal menus for a long time now, which is very efficient, but we're concentrating more on our suppliers when there is a good deal. we'll alter the menus as much as possible to capture that savings as well. I know that they're projecting another, 3 to 5% increase in food costs next year. And I'm hoping to absorb that with more efficiency and yet no loss of quality in meals. With the purchase of the new vehicle, I hope to see some reductions, maybe in repairs on our fleet. Because every new vehicle we've been purchasing the last couple of years, I do purchase the extra extended warranty to help compensate for that too. Other than that, it's just monitoring closely the expenses. There is no more quote ARPA money for us coming from for our agency, and so now it's back down to the nitty gritty and planning ahead for the future. It's a balanced budget on paper. And that's what we hope for. But yeah, I think there's what a $69 surplus. So, but again, hopefully we'll see some of the increase in the home delivered meals that the state legislators did pass, and that will come down. Be fair and their formula for our agency and for the Michigan in general. So.
Questions for Doug?
Yeah, Doug, I just saw one line item that hadn't been, they're all adjusted for increases in expense, which is expected, but your project senior essential needs is already over budget this year, but the projected $10,000 has remained the same for next year.
Yeah, we're going to try to capture some more different additional grants to do that. It is grant funded. So what you see there in that line item a little bit is some of the in-kind contributions that kind of add to that flux. The actual hard cash that's been spent on that is, in line with what the grants have come in for. So, in kind is always in and out.
And then there's a line contractual project lifesaver, which has an allocation, but it doesn't have any expenses over the years.
Right. That's that GPS thing. We advertise it for clients who, tend to wander out of the homes. I mean, we have
Nobody utilizes it?
nobody utilizes it. I mean, there's some of the units are out from previous purchases in the past, but yeah. So,
Fund balance, do you know what your fund balance is as of the close of the month?
as of June, the board set aside 764,000. I think it's at that for the rainy day fund.
764.
Yeah.
How much is your monthly expenses?
They run about 175,000 a month.
Okay.
Yeah.
So you got about 5 months.
Yeah.
And I heard you say about that $1 million and you're not sure how much of that would even end up here,
Yeah.
but some of the budget are one-time events. Is your budget using any of those one-time events to balance your budget with, knowing that could be a problem then 12 months from now?
You're not.
Good job.
Anybody else?
Yes, I had a question, please.
Mhm.
Under Program and Personnel Committee, it says, Paul Turner advised. And it says he further advised that they are having discussion about expanded outreach with Benzie County and possible veterans events. And I wanted to know, are you coordinating that with Karen, our veterans events here at all, or?
No, Trinity Lutheran Church has a support group, and we haven't really done any formalization yet to see what, do a presentation to that group of what services we offer, and it's just more of an outreach type thing into that
Okay.
group. Yeah, it's a support group that we want to promote for veterans as well and stuff.
Okay,
Yeah.
okay, that's what I just didn't.
And then the other
understand.
outreach would be, again, in the future, could we provide some, we do that once a month thing in Thompsonville. Could we do that and somewhere in Lake Ann, Frankfurt and stuff? And Trinity has said that they would be open to using their big communities hall for any such type of event. But
Okay,
yeah, that's part of our strategic plan to maybe expand our services and to
Outreach.
outreach a little bit more.
all right,
Yeah.
thank you.
Yeah.
Anybody else? Thanks, Doug.
You're welcome.
Cody, do you have something for us before we move into the 9:30? Okay. So, Mr. Williams, if you'd like to introduce yourself, and we will shortly open a public hearing regarding the creation for the PACE program.
Thank you very much. My name is Todd Williams. I'm President and General Counsel of Lean and Green Michigan. We're a PACE program administrator working with jurisdictions all over Michigan. I think 54 at this point in time. We'd love Benson County to be our next one. PACE is property assessed clean energy. It's a method of financing energy efficiency and renewable energy upgrades to commercial properties alone in Michigan. And in order to utilize it, we work with our local jurisdictions to create the tool, to create the opportunity for commercial property owners within their jurisdiction to be able to access it. The financing is 100%, private money coming from private lenders to a private property owner. And the role of the government is really to just place a tax assessment and enforce it like any other tax assessment if it goes bad. Thankfully, we've only had a couple that have gone into a non-payment and delinquency. One of them, I'm hoping maybe by about noon today will be resolved. The other two are still working through the process. So I'm very happy to answer any questions about PACE in general in Michigan, Lean and Green Michigan as a company and as a potential partner for you. And I know there are a few individuals here who had originally reached out to us who are interested in maybe using PACE on projects in Benzie County. And I know they're looking forward to making comment during the public hearing.
Ready, thank you. And at this time, I'll open the public hearing. And if there's anybody that would like to comment, feel free to stand up. Yes, sir. Could you please give us your name?
Good morning. My name is Jeremy Jones. I'm a resident of Lake Township and also a business owner of a solar development company in Michigan. We typically work on large projects. We've developed solar on over 700 acres in the state of Michigan. Not in Benzie County yet, but in Grand Traverse County, Manistee County, St. Joseph County, Wexford County. As a business owner, we actually own a small property on 115 where we're hoping to do a small solar project. And we would be very interested in perhaps being the first PACE loan in the county if the county decided to move forward with that. I guess as a business owner, the reasons that we think this type of financing is really interesting is a couple of things. One, you can sort of match the term of the loan to the life of the asset, which isn't always available if you just go to a bank to try to get a loan. So in the case of solar, these loans can be 20, 25 years, which helps match the cash flow of the solar project to the actual payments of the loan. So that's very helpful. And then also having the PACE financing scale with the asset value rather than just be limited to whatever corporate credit you're willing to kind of put behind those loans. So we're really interested in it for the small project that we have, but other things that could happen in Benzie County. And I guess I would just point to one other maybe advantage of having it available is we see more and more electric vehicles on the road. Businesses in the area are going to have reason to install EV chargers. And I think PACE financing is a great tool for helping them do that without having to come up with the cash. Again, you can sort of match the term of the loan to the life of the EV charger and make it a lot easier for business owners to add EV charging at their businesses. So that's it. And if there's anything I can answer as well, happy to be helpful. Thank you.
Very good. Thank you. Just a minute, sir.
Okay, thank you. I'm John Vankemalder. I'm on the Building and Grounds Committee at Michigan Shores, the residential co-op in Frankfurt. And I don't know if we qualify. We are a corporation.
As long as you're a private corporation.
We are. And then we would qualify. And we spend a considerable amount of our annual budget on common area electrical. So I'm exploring solar as an alternative to reduce our electric bills. And Jeremy just told me about this program, so I thought I'd come over and say, yes, we're very interested. Whether or not it'll work for us, I can't say. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Mr. Delzio.
Thank you.
Yes, sir.
Hi, for the record, Jim Dolzo, 556 Case Road, right around the corner here. I was involved when the PACE program was being brought into and worked on in counties around Michigan. I worked with some of the founding people on it, so I've seen it from its infancy here to really growing. I don't have a lot of statistics for you about how many businesses or how much money, but it's very, very substantial. And the thing I'd like to emphasize following these two or three comments here, this isn't just about building solar farms or things like that. If you have a business that uses energy, particularly heating and cooling or electricity, this program can really, really help you become more efficient. And the money that you save by becoming more efficient, your bills go down. That money goes to pay off the infrastructure you've just installed. And it really, really helps the business move forward. Businesses are held back by a lot of expenses. If you can cut this one substantially, and if it's properly done, this program can do it for you. You can expand your business, you can hire more people, you can pay off your other debts. There's a lot of ways that this helps a lot of different businesses, and it's businesses that use energy. Doesn't have to be installing solar panels, doesn't have to be anything fancy like that. Can be really well insulating your office, or getting a new fleet that runs much more efficiently. And the other thing you should remember about this is that when businesses do this to their buildings be the worth, the value, the price of their buildings go up. So that's good for the business. They're sitting on a more wealthy asset. And it's also good for the county and the township because you're seeing your tax base go up. It's very hard to find any losers in this equation. It works really, really well. And we have counties from, Southeast Michigan, Southwest Michigan, Northern Michigan, liberal counties, conservative counties, farm counties, city counties using this. And I really, really urge you to please pass this program. Take a close look at it, make sure you understand it. But it's good. It's not a lot of work for the county, very little work. Most of that stuff goes on between the loaner and the loanee. That's where all the paperwork happens. And it's just becomes another a property assessment. That's what it is. So if you have any questions or anything, I'm happy to answer them too, although I think I'm upstaged by this man here, and that's who you should talk to.
Yeah.
But I just want to tell you, as someone who was in on it right from the beginning and have seen it grown in Michigan, it's really, really good for everybody. Thank you.
Thanks, Jim. Any other public like to weigh in on this?
I will say just for the stats, since he was missing them and I couldn't remember them off the top of my head. Currently, we've got 71 projects that have been financed across Michigan, a little over $241 million of finance. We're one of the top 10 PACE programs as a state in Michigan. Out of the 32 states and the District of Columbia, we're consistently in the top 10. Still trying to chase down California, which is, I'm not going to catch them. They're way out in front, but PACE originated in California and they've got a, 5-year, 10-year head start on everybody. So, but we're hopeful.
Yep.
I'd love to catch up with anybody else in that top 10. You can break the top 2, I'd be happy.
I bet you would.
Ohio's I think number 2 right now, so it sticks my teeth a little bit.
Questions for Mr. Williams?
Yes, I have a question. Thank you, Mr. Williams. So I'm not understanding, or I don't know enough about it.
Mhm.
Does this become a paperwork burden or on the county? Or does it make the county a bill collector for this in case?
Very common concern when we talk with jurisdictions, and one of the benefits I think we offer as a company at Lean and Green Michigan, we're here to do 95% of the work for every single PACE project that comes in.
Okay.
We're going to work with the lender. We're going to work with the property owner, make sure the project is compliant with the statute. I'm saying 95% because there's two things I never want to do as an organization. One is make the final decision. That's going to be left up to the county to whether or not to approve each and every individual project that comes through.
Okay,
And two, with that, we're going to put a package together. We're going to make a recommendation to you, but we are going to want a little bit of your staff time. Somebody on the inside who can take a look at it and help us coordinate with you. So I'm not just randomly showing up at a public hearing to ask for approval, but a little bit of staff time is the
Okay.
burden. That's what we're here for as Lean and Green Michigan, is to make PACE easy for our jurisdictions, to build the marketplace and attract lenders into Michigan. I love anybody with a large pile of money who wants to invest in Michigan properties, and to make it easy for our contractors and our property owners to access.
okay. And can businesses apply on their own for this?
Yes.
Okay,
And, anybody that you think would be a good fit, anybody who has a question about it, when you work with us, the easiest thing you can do is just to give them our information, and we're happy to talk with absolutely everybody, whether it's a good fit, an early fit, somebody dreaming of doing a project. I think our fastest project was about 45 days to get through a process. Our longest project was about 4.5 years, because that was the time frame for the property owner to really chew in, think about it, make a decision and move forward.
so it would be almost like maybe a partnership is a wrong word to use for this, but the county kind of partnering with you for educating the public
Mhm.
and availability.
Yep.
Okay,
We want to administer your PACE program.
okay, perfect. Thank you.
Just a comment and a question, Todd, if I could. We brought the treasurer in, asked her opinion on the program and whether it was burdensome for her, and she educated us pretty well on it the last time through. But you said something that caught my attention. So each project is brought back to the county for final approval.
Yes.
What qualifies us to be able to say whether the project qualifies or not?
Well, hopefully you'll trust us in the work that we do. What we will provide you not only is a letter stating that we believe it complies, but we will provide you with a memo and all of the due diligence documents that we've reviewed to show that it meets all of the statutory requirements. When you adopt the PACE program, part of what you adopt is the program report, which puts very clearly out into the public what requirements need to be met for a project to qualify. That is the yardstick we're going to measure against. We're not making those up. We're pulling those directly down from the PACE statute. So by enabling and creating the program, you create the rule book, the yardstick that we're going to measure against. And then, any question you have about a project when we bring it forward, if we can't address it and show you how it qualifies under the statute, we just go back to work and get you more answers.
And it sounds like your program has some oversight from the fair lending regulations.
Not right now. However, interestingly, so the PACE lenders nationally have kind of fought that early on. Within the last few years, they have definitely been working more with the federal government to coordinate and to, it's getting to a point where it's going to be more regulated by the Fed. But at the end of the day, no property owner is going to be taking this loan out without thoroughly understanding what project they're financing and what the cost of it is. We work with property owners that, have a CFO, have accountants, have attorneys, are very, very knowledgeable on what they're doing. And I'm always happy to rely on their experts. We also work, one of my favorite projects was an entrepreneur who wanted to open up a grocery store in a food desert in Detroit. He was a dreamer. She's never taken a loan out really in her life. And so we worked with her to go through the term sheets and make sure she was matched up with a lender that has a good proven track record to get her comfortable, and also to try to get her to talk with a couple of different attorneys and everything else. So yeah, we're protective of our property owners.
So it sounds like there's 3 levels of approval. You got the funding source, the lender, your organization, and then eventually the county.
Yeah. And trust me, the PACE lenders, while they go out and dream of financing these, they are concerned about defaults as much as any other lender you've ever met. They're not just throwing out buckets of money. You know, they were going to do a full underwriting of the business, of the value of the property, of what the project is. They want to make sure it's solid. Their dream is to lend you money and get paid twice a year for the next 20 to 25 years. They do not want to have to come back to the county and ask for assistance in collecting. So one other point I forgot to mention, one unique aspect of the Michigan PACE statute is while the county and the county treasurer certainly can add a PACE assessment onto the tax bill, collect the money and forward it on to the PACE lender, we never recommend it. Under the Michigan PACE statute, we are able to authorize the PACE lender to actually collect those payments and only come to the county if there's a delinquency and ask for the enforcement. So my dream is that we bring in a project, 20 years later, we show back up and tell you it's been paid off and ask you to sign a second piece of paper releasing that lien. That's my dream. For the most part, we've gotten there, not full 20 years, but we've got 5 that have paid off early. So those are my favorite projects. They're not going to go bad on me.
I believe we had a contract in our packet about a month ago. Have our attorneys reviewed that?
They have it, but I'm not sure if I've gotten it back yet.
So part of the program report requirement under the statute is that you adopt a model special assessment agreement, which is the agreement that the property owner, the lender, and the county would enter into. That should be the contract that was in that packet. The model we provided is the latest and best version of what we utilize with our jurisdictions. And, you know, it's come about because of working with lenders, working with property owners, more attorneys than I can possibly ever want to work with as an attorney, you know, over 70 projects. In addition, you know, we talk with administrators in other states, and if there is something good that we can capture that is going to help protect the county, protect the property owners, we roll it in. So the version that you guys have is the current recommended version from Lean and Green, Michigan.
Mr. Dolzo alluded to there are other projects that qualify for the funding besides solar. Could you, out of the 70, could you just give us a few examples of the other things that have?
Yeah, there are a lot of classic, you know, PACE financeable energy efficiency measures. You know, we consistently see HVAC come in, windows, insulation. My favorite, honestly, you know, one of the earliest projects in my career that I ever saw was a building controls project that I would have never thought of. And it was a occupancy sensor in a stairwell. It's a 6-story building. They've got 2 stairwells, 3 banks of lights per flight going all the way down. They're on 24 hours a day, 365 days a year, because you can't have the lights turn off in a stairwell if people are going to be exiting that way. They put occupancy sensors on every floor. For the fire code, they had 1 out of 3 on 24 hours a day, 365 days a year. The other 2 per floor were then just turned on if somebody was actually walking down or up the stairs. And so it's, you know, it seems like a weird little bit of technology to help finance, but what it did was turn off 12 bags of lights. Other than, I think at the end of the first year, they figured out they ran maybe a total of about 5 hours compared to 24 times 365. And so simple things like that, but more complex, you know, all the way up to, you know, HVAC, anything that improves the efficiency of water. So domestic hot water tanks, you know, low flow shower heads. We've seen those come in on projects as well. So we have a fairly diverse set of projects amongst our properties. Michigan PACE statute does allow for the funding of EV charging stations. We're one of the first ones in the nation to have that. And we funded 12 to this point on properties. So always looking to roll those in for new ones. So energy efficiency, renewable energy such as solar is also qualifies. There is a change in the Michigan PACE statute that was approved in July and signed by the governor in July, which will take effect in, I believe, March. It will become effective. And so there will be the addition of what's known as environmental hazard PACE, which will include the ability to use PACE to remove lead and PFAS from drinking water, potable water systems, be used to also improve properties, resiliency against severe weather and drought. There's 2 other elements under it that I'm forgetting off the top of my head. So there is a slight expansion coming. But every individual project ultimately gets approved by the county. If you don't want to do a project, you don't think it's a good project with that property owner, you know, it does not have to be financed at PACE. They can finance it some other way.
So one more question, if I may. So it sounds like the expanded version of it. So if, for example, we had a lot of waste that was going to be converted into energy by combustion or whatever, would something like that qualify?
I don't, you know, as far as burning trash, I don't think would qualify.
Okay.
No, I can't
Okay,
think of a way to qualify
I
that one.
wasn't sure what the expanded when I.
Yeah.
The water and everything, so thank you.
If I may. At some point in time, somebody along the way is generating revenue for someone.
Mhm.
Where's that part at? Who's
Well-
getting paid?
Hopefully, if a project closes, we get paid. Now, we're very happy to work with absolutely everybody that comes in, the model that we have built. You know, I'm pretty happy if we close 3% of the projects that we talk to. You know, that is kind of the nature of our business and the nature of how we've designed it. We get paid by the property owner. The secret in PACE is that the property owner in taking out the loan ends up paying everybody. They end up paying the lender back. They end up paying Lean and Green Michigan to administer your program. They will be very well aware of my fees up front. We will talk with them. Nobody's getting surprised at the closing table. But we are a for-profit business. We do like to get paid, but we only get paid when a project closes. I've charged my team and I beat it into them that does not mean we go out and push a project. It's one of the other reasons I don't want the final approval. If I work 18 months and you guys don't think it's a good project, I'm not going to complain about it. You know, it's just a sunk cost. So we get paid. The lenders make money. They're lending money. They're charging interest. They get money back. Contractors hopefully are now getting more work and are also getting paid. So, you know, we tend to view this as a good project or good economic development driver, not only for your properties, not only in securing tenants and business owners within those properties long-term, keeping them in hand, keeping them in Benzie County, but also for area contractors in gaining another avenue for getting work.
So you mentioned that essentially the treasurer's standpoint, they can kind of step out of the picture, and that's what you recommend. So we do like that, but one of the concerns that we had at the last meeting is, what does a delinquency process really look like? Is the county out monetarily at all for a delinquency process? So can you really go through that delinquency process for us?
Yeah, and I will tell you, it was all hypothetical until earlier this year. We have our first one going through a full delinquency process right now in St. Clair County. We've been working with one of their deputy treasurers to make sure that the process is working. Benzie County would be able to charge any fees they normally would charge for a delinquent payment. So in addition to, owing for any delinquent amount to the lender, we would expect the county in doing the collection work to still be charging like they do any other tax assessment, their fees, when it gets paid.
Okay.
So staff time, and then hopefully it resolves and your fees get paid off on top.
So essentially, other than approving a project, we really shouldn't hear much out of you unless there's a delinquency.
That's correct.
And we were told that if there is a default,
Mhm.
that the treasurer can make the decision on whether or not they're going to front that money through the DTRF or.
No, they,
No, they absolutely positively should never front the money at all.
Okay,
The way we've beaten it into our lenders' heads when they come into work in Michigan is you're not getting paid till the property owner makes a payment.
okay.
If the worst comes to worst and the property sells, which one of them is selling, maybe closing today on the sale through a receivership, The first default actually happened because the property developer defaulted on their senior loan and they were forced into receivership. That property's transferring hopefully today, maybe tomorrow. And the county is getting paid back, but we've made it time and time again, we've made it clear, you are not coming out of pocket with any money.
What do you mean the county is getting paid back? If they're not fronting anything?
County's getting paid their fees,
Administration
The
fee.
administration fees.
Yeah,
Yeah,
okay.
they've certainly done some work in the last, year and a half or so of a year of placing the delinquent assessment on the tax bills and, they've started to accrue fees, that they're getting paid those.
So it sounds like then there's really, the DTRF isn't in further jeopardy is the understanding.
Right.
And I know that was the biggest concern at the last meeting.
Yeah, we don't want to spend your money at all. Mortified at the confidence.
Commissioner Murphy.
Yeah, I'm gonna go on a little further what Commissioner Jeanette asked about us being qualified to make these improvements. Use the word statute many a times. And what, we're gonna be relying on other people to come to us and saying, yep, this does meet the statute, meets the law, right? Are we gonna have someone in-house that can say, yep, that does? Someone that is on our team, not somebody that's a middleman kind of thing.
Well, and we're happy to work with whomever you want on your side. And just by way of example, I've got a project which hopefully I've cleared the final set of approvals with Wayne County about 9:30 last night. Hopefully that'll close yet this week. In Wayne County, I work with Corporation Council. I work with their Economic Development Department. And they roll in their Equalization Department as well. All of them have reviewed the project in addition to Lean and Green Michigan reviewing the project. In other counties, it goes differently. So it depends on what your comfort level and who you want us to plug in and work with. We're happy to do it. So, if you want us to roll the treasurer in, I can tell you in Oakland County, it is very much, we reach out to economic development. We tell them we've got a new potential project that'll be coming in. Corporation Council, in addition to Lean and Green Michigan, will review the special assessment agreement as it comes through. Economic development will review it. The treasurer's office will review it to make sure different elements such as the property owner being current on their taxes, no issues of past assessments not being paid. And so you're right in that it can be a little daunting when you're looking at the technical aspects from the energy efficiency, but part of our due diligence and part of the requirements that we ask for is one, an appraisal from somebody who can actually issue a market rate appraisal to show us what the property value is. We ask them to provide us a title report, which is going to demonstrate to us who actually owns the property. And if there's any encumbrances we need to know about on it. We also require them to provide us with an energy audit provided by an energy engineer or somebody qualified to actually put forth an ASHRAE level 2 energy audit for us to review, demonstrating what the project is, what the measures are, what the savings from those measures are going to be. And we will review all of that and anything else you want us to run down in preparing our reports for you.
Okay, well, my concern is that, we're relying on, you work for a private company, right? We would have to make sure that, at least I would think, we'd have to have somebody representing us to make sure that we are not going outside of what the statutes require. So that means we're gonna have to probably have an in-house expert, which I'm looking to probably you or the treasurer's office. Okay, I just want to make sure that we are aware of that.
I think what we want to do is make sure that contract, and I don't know what the language would be that they use, but hold us harmless because we're relying on other parties to tell us whether it's qualified or not.
Okay.
But I haven't seen the contract and we've not heard back from our legal counsel yet, so.
Go ahead, Gary.
We got a couple. Number one, how many counties are you in currently?
We work with 54 jurisdictions, including counties, cities, and townships. I don't remember the breakdown off the top of my head, but I think it's 20 plus counties.
82?
Three.
83.
Um. The solar panel thing brought up a concern of mine. Most of it's on leased land.
Mhm.
I do understand that consumers wants to put in 20,000 acres solar panel. It will only lease it. Basically renders the land useless after they're put in. That's neither here nor there. The bottom line is, where are we gonna get all this property? And that is a huge concern to me.
Mhm.
So we'll take that as it comes. The other thing that stuck out that you said was we would have just a little bit of staff time for the treasurer.
Mhm.
I would like to see her compensated. Never just a little time. It was. And are wind turbines part of your programs?
Wind turbines are authorized on the statute, but I would remind you, you do not have to approve any project that comes forward. You know, it's gonna be a private property owner looking to borrow money from a private lender and coming to you to ask for you to provide the security interest. You do not need to give them a reason for saying no. This doesn't deviate from any of the requirements for permitting and zoning and anything else that they have to meet. This is just about the financing. You don't have to allow a wind turbine project to move forward if you don't want it to.
I know it's a big concern in my community, in my district. I wanted to ask if it was on the list. Thank you.
Anybody else? I don't believe we have a motion prepared to act on this today, and I'm a little reluctant until we get final decisions from our legal counsel. So if there's nobody else that is going to speak on behalf of this, thank you for your time, sir, and everybody else that spoke.
Thank you very much. Any other questions come up after the meeting? Anything you think of in the next day or two? There's always something that will jump out at you. Feel free to reach out. We're happy to answer the questions to the best of our ability. And, you know, always happy to work with your team to vet, you know, our program and why we think it's a good fit.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
At this time, we'll close the public hearing. And we're gonna have Frankfurt Area Land Trust.
Good morning, commissioners and the audience. I'm so grateful everyone came to see me. We're here today to provide an update for the Frankfurt Area Community Land Trust. The land trust has been in existence officially for about 2 years, Jay.
Ma'am,
Yeah, and we.
you introduce yourself.
Oh, I'm getting to that. Sorry, I'm not so much nervous. It's just I've been on the job for about 6 weeks, and so I'm still in the learning stages.
Good.
And even though I'm trying to sound like the expert up here, I'm really just the learner bee at this point. So, my name is Annette Knowles. I am the executive director of the Land Trust, as I said, for about 6 weeks. And joining me this morning is Jay White, who is the president. He's been around a lot longer than I have. So today we just wanted to talk a little bit about what's been going on with the land trust and the progress that's been made over really what I'll say the last 6 months or so. I believe, as I understand it, there may have been a presentation made to this body about a year ago. And it's really remarkable the progress that has been made on moving forward with some developments of some properties in Frankfurt. A couple of things that I wanted to talk about this morning before we get into the details of what's been going on is basically how the land trust is supported and what type of needs that the land trust has from the community. So I like to call it hands, hearts, and wallets. Hands is labor, volunteerism, all of the types of things that go into doing, bringing the work to fruition. Hearts are always the advocates, so we're never short of those. And then wallets, because of the type of work that this is, funded through a 501c3, which is a nonprofit organization. We rely on fundraising of various sorts to make this work possible. And largely the funding is through three sources. One is solicitation of private donations. So we've had some really remarkable donations made from the greater community to support this work. There have been donations from what I'll call private grant funders. For example, the Father Lovett Grant Program from St. Philip's Episcopal Church recently donated funds to the Land Trust. The 100+ women of Benzie County recently, last week actually, pledged some funds to the Land Trust. And then the third part of that, three-seated or three-pronged stool is funds that we're able to leverage those private donations through public dollars. And I know this board has been this body has been very generous in the past with the Land Trust. And so first of all, I wanted to extend our thanks for that. It's been very, very helpful in bringing those projects to completion. There are a few statistics that I wanted to share with you, and I'm also going to be sending down a couple of the latest marketing pieces. Because the Land Trust really is here to solve an issue. And the issue with that is the scarcity of housing that is affordable for a wage earner in the service area of the Land Trust. There was a recent housing study that was commissioned by Housing North. A lot of numbers in the study. I'm not asking you to read the whole thing. You may have already received a copy of it as well. But this work was done recently, 2023, by a company called Bowen National Research. And I'm, again, just wanted to pull one remarkable statistic out of that study because it really demonstrates why the work of the Land Trust is so important. And that's in regards to the housing gap that exists now and what it looks like 5 years from now. And so, although the Land Trust concentrates on for sale of homes as opposed to rentals, I'm going to include both numbers. And this is from the 50 to 100% of the median family income. Our services are mainly to 60 to 120% of the median family income, but these numbers are for the 51 to 120%. So in the next 5 years, the countywide number, just so you're aware, 76 more rental units that would service those folks who are in that 51 to 120% of the median family income, but 629 for sale units within the county. Break that down to the Frankfort, Alberta area. Those numbers are 12 units for rentals, but 57 units for Frankfort and Alberta. So you can see how there is a little bit of a challenge because developers aren't rushing out to develop housing that's affordable for the average age worker or wage earner, not age worker, a wage earner in the community. And when we say wage earners, we're not talking, we're basically referring to, what I'll call entry level or staff that have not progressed and have experienced upward mobility. So you're looking at teachers, bank employees, firefighters, hospital workers, the types of things that really make a community, but they're having difficulties finding housing within the community, which again is one reason why the Land Trust work is so important. And so although Jay's going to talk a little bit this morning about the progress that's been made on the homes that you're seeing here, we did want to make mention that currently there are 2 homes under construction, 2 homes to come. And now the Land Trust is starting to work on what's next, because we know there are multiple opportunities within the service area to add more attainable housing or workforce housing for these folks who really want to live and work in the community that they love. And so we have, again, after these 2 are complete, there will be 2 more homes constructed next door, basically. And then the Land Trust is working on a couple other projects that we can't really announce at this time, but that are in the works. So with that, I'm going to turn it over to Jay, who's going to talk a little bit about what you're seeing now on the screen These were photographs that were taken yesterday. So you can really see the progress that's been made and how close we are to selling the first 2 homes that we have.
Thank you, Annette. Thank you for your time today. My name is Jay White, for your record. I'm the president of the Frankfurt Area Community Land Trust, also resident at 488 Bridge Street in Frankfurt. Annette really didn't go into her background, but we're pretty proud of the background that she brings to us as really DDA executive director of several DDAs for communities in southeastern Lower Michigan. So she certainly understands the importance of involving local governments in things that come together, as well as private and public funding. So we're extremely pleased to have Annette here with us. And last time I spoke to you was in September last year. We had a shovel-ready project, if you recall, and we're excited to have launched that project. We appreciate so much your support at that point as really providing the seed funding for us to move forward. And in early April of this year, the foundations for our first 2 homes that are located at 40 and 50 Grove Place were completed, as well as the underground plumbing was installed at that time. Weaver Barnes, the primary contractor for the project, they're a panelization company. They arrived on site on April 28th to measure the foundation, make sure everything was square, so they could build the homes to the foundation. They came on the 28th. Their facility is located in Sugar Creek, Ohio. I had the pleasure of meeting their staff and touring their facility on my way to Florida last year in January. It's amazing. The 2 homes were delivered and construction began on May 11th. And both homes were completely shelled in and exteriors were finished by June 5th. So a pretty rapid completion of our homes. We did do a time-lapse photography of that. I don't know if we have that pull up or not. We do that. Okay. All right. So maybe Katie can help us with that technology to run that. It was kind of fun to watch and see how things go so quickly. And then we have local contractors we're working with for mechanicals, electrical, mechanical, finishing work inside. And that work began shortly after completion of the structures. We completed all the rough-in work by June 20th and received our inspections and our permits to go ahead and finish insulation on the walls and begin drywall, which we did about July 1st. The first coat of paint was applied in our first home, which would be 50 Grove Place. So in the photos, as you're looking at those, the green home is the furthest up the hill. It's the home that's address is 50 Grove Place. The week of the 17th, the volunteer painting crew moved in and we were able to get the walls painted that allowed our trim carpenter to come in and start installing the window framing trim about the week of the 24th. Kitchen cabinets then arrived July 31st, and those are now installed. Granite countertops, we're very excited to say were donated by a firm in Traverse City. It's Stratus Marble and Granite. Heard of our project, but we'd like to be involved. They donated the 2 slabs of granite for us. And so it's really remarkable that we can provide that level of quality in this price of a home. Those will be installed on the 24th of August. Finished painting the window trim is now completed in home 50. And yesterday we had a contractor install luxury vinyl plank flooring throughout the home. So we're making good progress in that house. Drywall for the second home, 40 Grove Place, got underway August 1st. And though it's a bit behind schedule, we think we'll catch things up as that drywall contractor has shown quite a bit more speed than the first one we had. We're excited to report the city of Frankfurt is installing a 5-foot sidewalk along Grove Place, which will connect Grove Place homes to our community. We didn't initially have a commitment from the city for that, so we're glad that they made that decision and are moving forward. As a matter of fact, the cement truck is there this morning as I stopped by on my way to look at the project. Do you want to run that tape?
Yep.
Thank you. This is a group out of Claire, was the assembling contractor. And so you can kind of see the quickness that, I mean, obviously it's sped up, but it's remarkable, their system that they have. And people would just drive by and say every day that, I mean, how did that house happen? It wasn't here yesterday and it's there today. Great group of 4 contractors come out of Claire. They're an Amish contracting firm. So they leave their home at 5:30 in the morning, arrive at our site at 7:30, pack up their ladders and head on home at 3:30 every day. Of course, awaiting them were farm chores before the evening rest, and then come back the next day. So extremely incredible work ethic and a great group of guys to work with. Final grading for our first 2 homes is scheduled for the end of this month. AJ's Excavating is doing that work for us. And as we'll prepare for landscaping installation and several trees along Grove Place and the alleyway behind the homes that were donated by the city of Frankfurt's tree board. We're excited to say we'll continue the tradition in Frankfurt to have a sidewalk and trees in front of our home along the street. Our completion target for 50 Grove Place is August 28th, when we'll ask for our certificate of occupancy inspection. And we'll ask for the same inspection of the 40 Grove Place about September 18th, really putting us in position to close on our sales with our homeowners, which we're excited to say this morning. We received notification from NMCAA, the nonprofit in Traverse City that's been vetting our buyers for us, sent us our first 2 buyers. So both couples are working in our community, currently live in our community, and we're extremely excited. They're pre-approved by lenders, so the closing process should go fairly smoothly for us at this point. And we'll be welcoming those owners to their homes the end of September, first part of October, which will then allow us to roll that revenue, roll those dollars over into our next 2 homes that we hope to get under construction this fall. As Annette mentioned, we have hopes of some other projects that we'd like to take on. Obviously, an organization needs next steps and next project to keep us alive and give us completion of our mission. One of those be our first time that we'll approach a purchase and rehab of homes. And the 2 homes we're working on right now are actually in the Grove Place neighborhood, which will be very exciting for us. So what we'll do is purchase a home, totally renovate it. We strip it out, everything's new. It'll be built to the same standard as the Grove Place homes. And then we will retain ownership of the land, that's our model, and then sell the home to a new homeowner. So it'll be under the same ground lease conditions as the existing homes that we're selling. So we're very hopeful that we can complete that. We have 2 grants submitted to private funding that'll help us acquire those properties and also renovate those homes. So we should know more September, October, probably on that project. And we'll keep you posted. And there's another one that's a little bit in the wings that we can tell you more about this fall. That'll include up to 7 homes on a site and or 10 rental units. So we're working on another project there for next year. Another interesting support from the city of Frankfurt is that we're working on a resolution to put the new Residential Facilities Workforce Housing Property Tax Act 267 to work for the Grove Place homes. That will additionally enhance the affordability of these homes for our property owners. In essence, that tax law provides 100% tax abatement for up to 12 years. We'll certainly be coming back to you as it does require notification to the county for that tax act to be put in place. But if you can think about a new owner facing 7% mortgage rate interest right now on a mortgage, this ability for us to abate taxes will be huge in terms of their cost of living going forward. So we'll keep you posted on that, that tax act. I would like to say that the overwhelming support for the Grove Place homes has been amazing, as Annette alluded to. Like your $120,000 seed grant that you provided to us last fall. Again, much appreciated, and really got us over the hump that allowed us to push forward and get things moving. That again encourages other grants and gifts to our organization. So thank you. We've had a good number of volunteers from local architects designing the homes. Bob Yvonne, if anyone knows Bob, he designed the home for us. Retired general contractors that are involved supervising the construction, as well as community members jumping in to help us with painting, just cleaning up the homes, and landscaping the homes later this fall. We have a volunteer from an organization called Plant It Wild that has helped us with a landscape plan, and then another group who will be donating time to actually install the landscaping. It's truly a community project, and those of us within Land Trust are sincerely appreciative of the generous support that we're experiencing. And with that, I'll close and just say, if there are any questions that you'd like us to address today, we're here. Happy to help you there. And again, on behalf of the Frankfurt Area Community Land Trust, thank you.
Thanks, Jay. Any questions, please?
Jay, just a question and a comment.
Sure.
So you said what the appraised value of the home is, but how much does your group have in that project? How much was your cost?
Yeah, our cost is projected at about 240,000 all in. That includes land, interest on construction financing. I didn't mention the construction financing. It was a community effort. We actually went out to the community, asked for supporters to purchase certificates of deposit at two local banks, Honor Bank and State Savings Bank. The banks then used those certificates as collateral to fund a line of credit for construction. Did a couple things for us. It brought down the construction interest rate to about 5.5% from 7%. It also eliminated about $3,500 in closing costs per home that we would traditionally pay to have a construction mortgage. So huge support from the part of the community. We were actually oversold on that. We had people who wanted to commit, but we already had received the funding necessary for the first two homes. Any other questions for Aaron?
One quick one. I know Mishta had stepped in and the state had stepped in.
Yes.
And wage scale.
Yes.
That affected you yet?
It has not. We are working on that currently with Mishta and our contractors to see, how we can resolve that requirement. We're also very fortunate to be part of a Michigan CLT Community Land Trust Coalition, headquartered out of Grand Rapids. There are 4 CLTs in the state of Michigan. Actually, 2 are CLTs and 2 are Habitat for Humanity groups that are being significantly impacted. We're small, so these are small projects that are now being required to go back and retroactively pay prevailing wage to the contractors after we're about 75% completed with our project. So it's a very difficult task. We've been lobbying Mishta for exemption or workarounds. So far, we've not been successful. So sadly, we're not throwing in the towel, but we know that our $240,000 grant for Mishta is in question at this point. Sadly, the requirement of prevailing wage was not announced to us until well into our project about June of this year. So we received an award letter from Mishta naming 2 things that needed to happen for funds to be received: certificate of occupancy and also a qualification of our homeowners. And that was it. That's all that's on the award letter. We later get the award agreement, the grant agreement, and notification that prevailing wages would need to be paid. So it's kind of a real unfortunate curveball that's been thrown to us. We are working through it with a number of other CLTs in the state of Michigan. We did employ assistance of some legislators to lobby that the decision. One of the unfortunate challenges is these are federal funds coming in, so the state may not have many options to work around it. So
Thank you.
that answer your question, Gary?
Yes, sure
Thank
did.
you.
Thanks, Jay.
Thank you, Jay.
Thank
Thanks,
you.
Annette. With that being finished up, let's take a short break. We'll be back in session at 10:30.
All right, you're unmuted.
Thank you. And we're back in session. You would like to go where, Katie?
Well, Lauren has been here all morning, and so if we can move H to A, just so she doesn't have to sit through all the other action items.
Oh, come on.
She's happy to do it. I'm just.
No, she's.
Are we done with?
So let's finish elected.
We done with department heads?
Yeah,
Let's finish elected officials if anybody would like to, and then I haven't asked Rebecca yet. You have anything to share? Nope. Down. That was easy.
All right.
So we'll close elected officials, department heads, and with your request, we will move to item H under action items.
Good morning. It's nice to see a few familiar faces, some new faces as well. Just to reintroduce myself, my name is Lauren Harris with Advantage Benefits Group. Our team was hired last fall after an extensive RFP process for your employee benefits consulting work with the county. So my job is to go out every year, make sure that you're getting the best value for your benefits, make sure that your benefits are competitive compared to other government entities as well as private employers. And then ultimately make sure every taxpayer dollar is well spent on those benefits. Our goal is to always prevent cost shifting to your employees whenever possible. So we always look at several different options every single year. And just to recap last year, once we were hired, we performed a benchmarking analysis on your employee benefits, which came in as good as benchmark and in a few areas better than benchmark, which was great to see. And then also we marketed your plans and rates with the insurance companies, and we came back with $78,000 in savings without reducing benefits to your employees. And in some cases, we enhanced them. So far the feedback has been great. No news is good news when it comes to your HRA reimbursement process. And that was what we were hoping for in switching that over to Blue Cross and streamlining that. And so from what I have heard, there has been no negative feedback from employees, which is great, which means they're getting their payments on time and everything is flowing through correctly. In regards to this year's renewal, there was a summary provided in the board packet, just a high level of every single line item with your employee benefits. Your Blue Care Network and Blue Cross Blue Shield renewal came in, the HMO plan received a 2.8% increase. The PPO plan received a 33.3% increase due to there's a very small amount of employees enrolled in that plan. And so they need the premiums that they're collecting to make sure it pays for the claims that are being incurred under that plan. So that was the reason for that increase. But it was a very favorable increase from Blue Care Network and Blue Cross Blue Shield. The trend, just inflation every year, right now it's at about 10% for medical and pharmacy costs. So for your renewal to come in this low is really great. There is one caveat I would say is we monitor your claims spend every single month, and Blue Cross cut off your claims experience. So that snapshot that they're using of your claims to determine your renewal rates, they cut off your claims in February. Okay. And up to that point, your claims have been running really, really well. We had a larger month in March and a larger month in May, which will count towards next year's renewal rates. Okay. So we are anticipating we'll see a bigger increase next year. And then we'll obviously look at all of the various options we can, including self-insuring, to see if that would be more cost effective. But just wanted to put that caveat out there that, we are seeing some unexpected claim hits come through that will count towards next year. And when we quoted Priority Health this year, we did have to give them the full claims information up to date that we had, which went past February. So as a result, Priority Health was not able to produce a competitive quote this year because they had to count those additional months of your claims experience. So next year, I think will be an interesting year in terms of shopping and seeing how the insurance companies will compete for your business, because it will be more of an apples to apples from a claims standpoint that they're competing for. But overall, a great renewal. We also onboarded your employees to our employee navigator system, which is where all of your electronic enrollments are being collected. And so employees are able to go in, make dependent changes, make their open enrollment selection seamlessly. So that takes a lot of the burden off of the HR team and administration team. So that's going great. And then your dental, you'll see as a line item, that received a 4.2% increase, which was also very modest. So overall, the increase for this year is $34,000, 235. And your HRA spend is running below where we projected, but we didn't reduce it as much as we normally would, because we know that those claims are ticking up towards the end of the year. So that's why you see a slight reduction of 5,100 in the HRA spend, but not a lot. Questions? No?
4.2 dental increase. Is that standard or is
Yes.
should we be shopping?
Very standard. No, we shopped last year and saved a nice portion of the premium. And so, no, Delta Dental came in very aggressive compared to the others. So their 4.2% increase actually still puts us ahead of where we were last year at renewal. And then you can see the other lines of coverage with the standard IMED. Those are in a multi-year rate guarantee that we're currently in. So those will be locked in for future years as well, as noted there.
So Katie, less about the premium, because it looks like you did a pretty fair job for us there. But how about the relationship? I know that's not what we're approving today, but how's the relationship been since we switched over?
Our office's relationship has been wonderful. Lauren and Patrick and the rest of their team have been great to work with. Obviously, with the new year, there's been hiccups with the Blue Care Network and some of the benefits carrying over properly. And they have really taken the reins to handle those hiccups for us with the staff. They're speaking with our staff directly rather than making us the middleman. So from our office's perspective, they've been great and extremely helpful to us and getting everybody happy in what they need when it comes to their benefits.
Any pushback from any of the employees as far as benefits? I know we strive to be one of the front runners when it comes to taking care of our employees and the benefits we provide. With costs increasing every year, we're not in a money-making role as stewards of the county. So the money's got to come from someplace every time there's an increase, and that's from the taxpayers. So
Right.
we have to be diligent about what we're doing and don't care to have to try to reflect that back on the people that are helping us.
Right. I haven't heard any pushback from those who take the BCN plan. Like Lauren said, we have a very small number on the buyout plan, 2, I think is what it is. But so they're going to see an increase this year because they pay the difference. We pay up until the amount of the free plan. So there may be some concern and pushback from those individuals on that plan just because it's going to be quite the increase. But like explained, there's not the numbers to try to bring that down. I have not heard pushback or concerns from the staff as far as the benefits and what we're providing. We've, polled the staff if they want to keep the pet insurance, for instance, because it's not really utilized. It sounds like the consensus is people want the option. So we haven't heard. Jackie has asked out to multiple staff persons for suggestions and ideas of maybe other benefits we could provide, specifically in the realm of mental health. So, we're constantly asking the staff's feedback for what they want to see in their benefits package. But so far, we haven't received much from the staff as far as changes or things like that.
Lauren, do you know do you anticipate prescription prices or anything being affected? So that coming down at all because of money's coming in?
So prescription costs are increasing significantly. We've got a few patents that are expiring for Humira. That are allowing alternatives to finally come into the market and
Okay.
compete. So that's a relief. We're keeping a very close eye on that. And then Blue Cross also has a coupon program that they offer to employees who are on medications that qualify for it. So there are programs that we are leveraging as much as possible to keep the costs low. It's, free money from the drug manufacturers. And so, but it is up to the employee to respond to those notices and opt into using that coupon. But every time they do, that does save the county money on the prescription on the back end when it comes to the claims, that count towards your renewal rates.
So that might be education on our part to make sure.
Yes, at open enrollment, we've definitely been hitting that home because that's the Pillar RX program. And we put it in the benefit guide. We try as much as possible to keep it top of mind because I know employees are inundated with spam, attempts or fraud attempts and things like that. So trying to keep Pillar RX top of mind is key. But what I'd like to do next year is now that we would have been together for 2 years, we've got enough claims experience to be able to go out and consider whether or not self-insuring would be an option for you next year. You're partially self-insuring right now with your reimbursement arrangement, but there are a lot more levers we can pull in terms of cost containment when you're fully self-insured completely. So that's an analysis that we would do next year. But given that your claims we're just together for the first year, it's a little too premature. Yep.
Anybody else?
So I believe there's a motion to approve the recommendations here. And then there's a second motion in the future in terms of contributions for employees regarding Public Act 152 that need commissioner approval as well.
Does everyone know what PA 152 means? That's important.
Yes. So Public Act 152, so the state realized that a lot of public entities and government in particular were going bankrupt by providing employee benefits due to union negotiations, what have you. And so Public Act 152 was enacted in 2011, and it's a right that you have to opt into, or they automatically opt you into, that would cap the amount that the county pays towards your healthcare benefits. So it's a right that you have that you've automatically been opted into at the state level. And there's 2 different ways you can do that. You can do like a percentage, like the county pays 80%, employees pay 20%, or there's what's called a hard cap, which is a flat dollar amount limit for a single, double, or family that would cap the amount from a hard dollar standpoint that the county would contribute. So far in years past, because right now you're paying 100% of the HMO plan, you have historically opted out of that right to enact that cap limitation because you're contributing more
Then the hard cap.
than the hard cap costs. Technically, actually, your premiums are lower than that, but ultimately you have not exercised that right to enact a cap like that. So every year you have to opt out of this act that you've automatically been opted into at the state level.
We've never exceeded that hard cap.
Yes, we do.
Oh, we do.
That's why we have to opt out.
Reason.
That's why we have to opt out of it, is because we do.
Thank you. So with that, I'll make the recommendation. The Board of Commissioners approves the 23-24 benefits renewal with the recommendation as presented and authorizes the county administrator's office to sign the benefit provider agreement.
Second.
Motion and support. Is there further discussion? Roll call, please.
Markey,
Yes.
Nye,
Yes.
Roloffs.
Yes.
Sauer,
Yes.
Worsakki,
Yes.
Cunningham,
Yes.
Janat,
Yes.
motion carried. And then if you'd like to make the motion to opt out of PA 152 now, yeah, you can.
Keep that motion. I'll support. The motion being the opting out of Public Act 152.
Oh,
That one's not in here.
Opt
is it?
out, no, it's not.
Okay.
So there's a motion and support.
150, PA 152.
Let's do a roll call.
Knight,
Yes.
Roloffs,
Yes.
Sauer,
Yes.
Worsakki,
Yes.
Cunningham,
Yes.
Janat,
Yes.
Markey,
Yes.
motion carried.
Thank you.
Thank you for your time.
Thank you, Lauren. Gonna go back up to item A. Consider approving emergency management 2024 work agreement.
Good morning. Good morning. Rebecca Huber's Office of Emergency Management. There are no changes to that memo other than the years of date. That is the expectations that the state has on the county / me as to my job requirements, and I report them quarterly. So we're just saying that we're still going to continue. Becky's still going to do her job into 2024.
It's the same one we do every year, right?
Yes, sir.
Yes.
Well, so I'll make the motion that the Board of Commissioners authorize the Chair of the BOC and the Emergency Management Coordinator to sign on behalf of Benzie County the 2024 EMPG work agreement with the Michigan State Police Emergency Management and Homeland Security Division. Mark, you will support.
Motion and support. Anything further?
One question. They're giving you a 30.1% of your salary reimbursement. And you say that that's less than last year. How much less is it?
So we'll get another agreement when I have the actual grant agreement to come forward. This is just for job portion, but I was sitting through a webinar, and what it is we actually got a higher amount per state, but every county had some changes, whether it be wage increases, or in my case, I actually probably took some away because I went from part-time to full-time. I always was full-time, but job sharing, I was dispatch. And so now the dispersion of equalization throughout all of the EM programs, I don't know exactly. I'll have that number when I get the paperwork from the state as to what it was last year compared to what it is this year. So we get more from the feds, but the disbursement will be less. I can't remember what our percentage was last year.
Because I'm thinking there was not that long ago, we were getting 50%.
We did with we had a separate special one just to ARPA to bring us up 30-ish to that 50%. They cannot pay more than 50%. So it was like 49.9%, but we had an ARPA boost. And so we actually had a separate agreement at one point just to take in more money.
So it might be good when you get that percentage. We got to almost filter out what we were getting through ARPA because those were one-time funding.
Yep.
I'd be curious then to see after it's normalized what it looks like.
Yep. And I'll compare those in my next meeting. That usually comes out in September to agree on the grant agreement.
Okay,
This
thank
is
you.
just to say that we are going to continue with the program, and then they will draft the grant agreement.
That's all I have. Thank you.
Any further discussion? Roll call, please.
Roloffs.
Yes.
Sauer,
Yes.
Worsakki,
Yes.
Cunningham,
Yes.
Janat,
Yes.
Markey,
Yes.
Knight. Yes. Motion carried.
Thank you.
And I'll pick that up from you whenever.
Move on to item B. Budget amendment out of the treasurer's office.
So the library penal fund has been moved by the treasurer to a sweep fund. Pretty straightforward. The memo indicates our interest rates have went up quite a bit by moving it to that sweep fund. And so what we had budgeted previously wasn't enough. So what we're doing here is we're recognizing the revenue of that additional interest, which is almost tripled from what it was before. So budget amendment's pretty straightforward to do that.
And does this amendment take us then through this fiscal year?
Yes, and then next year we're raising what we're budgeting.
So Jeanette moves that the Board of Commissioners approves the budget amendment in the amount of $500, recognizing the budgeted use of fund balance and disbursements of interest for the library fund.
Support.
Motion and support. Further discussion? Roll call, please.
Sauer,
Yes.
Worsakki,
Yes.
Cunningham,
Yes.
Janai,
Yes.
Markey,
Yes.
Nye,
Yes.
Roloffs.
Yes.
Motion carried.
Item C, consider waiving an EMS bill and authorize the related policy and procedure.
Some time ago, we brought to the Board of Commissioners, an action that's taken place maybe 2 times in EMS history where somebody has asked for financial hardship waiver for their EMS bill. This Board of Commissioners asked Director Tom King and I to take that back and come up with a process essentially as to how we're going to consider those hardships and then make a recommendation for the one that was at hand. So Tom and I sat down with our billing agency to ask them their best practice because they handle that a lot for other agencies that they handle billing for. They really have that, expertise. And so as a consensus of that, they recommend that the individual in question be waived based on the information provided by this person. She's indicated her bank statements and income to us versus her expenses, and she is in that, low income threshold. Going forward, what Tom King and I would like to do is work with the billing agency to come up with that recommendation for the Board of Commissioners to say okay on. Because like I said, they have the in-house expertise to really look at those documents. I looked at those documents and I could tell, yes, but they have the methodology and the expertise, individual expertise to really help us make that recommendation. So going forward, that would be our process. When we receive another one of these, it could be 10 years. We don't know. Like I said, this is maybe the 3rd in EMS history. So they're very, very uncommon, but at least puts a process in place to us. So next time we know exactly what we need to do. So what you have in your packet is that policy, and the yellow highlight shows the adjustment.
Katie, you said that this rarely happens, but in the 7 years that I've been sitting here, I've heard early on, the first year or two, there was a lot of conversation about us not being effective in collecting our receivables timely. So I'm going to guess that we probably have some bad debt out there that we've never collected. Yes, no?
Not, it's my understanding long ago, pre-Tom King, there was a lot of issues with EMS.
Yeah.
Where we're at right now, that's not an issue. I know Tom has spent many hours tracking down, cleaning up paperwork so
Okay.
that debts are being paid. I'm not aware of old bad debt that we're still trying to find. Are you, Tom?
Always gonna have.
Wait,
You're always gonna have some bad debt. You're gonna have people that we transport that just don't pay or don't have the means to pay,
Mhm.
or they pay very small amounts. I mean, we do take small monthly payments through the billing agency to help work with people. And then there are the cases where you have people, that they send out bills, they don't get collected, they end up going through the collection agency. And we do get funds through over time through the collection agency as well that we're used. So,
but we don't have the debt that's sitting there. That's
right.
part of the relationship with that third party biller is they're really handling that collections and working to make us whole.
Got it. But we only get paid as they collect it.
Yes.
Correct.
And is this a specific request or are we approving a policy today?
So there is the specific request from the individual who asked, as well as approving the policy going forward.
How much is the amount we're being asked to waive?
What was it again? I don't remember. For the
I
girl who's
don't
asking.
have it.
It was very small, like maybe $1,000.
Okay.
Yeah.
And if we left it up to the discretion of the agency that handles our billing, is there any incentive for them to be aggressive enough to try to collect as much as they can? Or will this just be an easy way out to say, look, we're going to ask for a waiver?
They're still coming to us. We're still part of the process. We're relying on them to help us make the recommendation.
Okay, but you have the administration has the final say.
Yeah, well, in this board.
Okay.
Yeah,
And they only make money on money they collect.
correct.
So writing off debt is not in their best interest.
Right.
Even the billing agency only gets
Correct.
it on what they collect?
Right,
Right.
because they only collect a percentage of what
collected.
is collected.
Okay, that answers the other
But yeah,
question.
we're not fully turning over the reins. They're assisting us in that recommendation.
Okay, that's all I had. Thank you.
Any other questions?
Make the motion that the Board of Commissioners waives the EMS bill due to financial hardship and adopts Benzie County EMS financial hardship policies and procedures as presented to the board.
Marky will support.
The only question I'd ask is, should we be specific about what the dollar amount is? Because there's no mention of that at all, but we're waiving something.
I know when Maples clears off a debt, they usually put the amount in. Probably prudent to go ahead and get. Good thing. How can we do that?
I wonder if based on what Katie said, we could say not to exceed.
Let me, hold on. In my email. Do you have the number more readily available as I kind of look?
Not try to complicate it, but it's,
That makes more sense to me.
No, you're fine. I don't have it. You must have it. We try to keep it out of email because of the privacy nature of it.
but you're thinking it's 1,000 or less.
Yeah, it wasn't a ton of money. Have it. You have it.
Or put a limit of like 1,500, that should cover it.
Yeah, it would more than cover it.
Do that, make
Yeah.
a motion not to exceed.
Make the same motion and when it says EMS bill, not to exceed.
All right with that, Tim?
That's fine.
Roll call, please.
Worsakki,
Yes.
Cunningham,
Yes.
Janat,
Yes,
Markey,
Yes.
Nye,
Yes.
Roloffs,
Yes.
Sauer,
Yes.
motion carried.
Next item is item D, consider declaring an EMS snowmobile trailer surplus and authorize the sale.
I don't know if you knew this, because I didn't know this, but EMS had a snowmobile trailer. And so declaring a surplus for it to be sold through the proper channels, just as we've done with other declared surplus. It is not something we need, and it's my understanding it hasn't been used in quite some time. It was just, parked out back, and so.
So I'll make the motion that the Van Cam snowmobile trailer be declared surplus and the proceeds from the MyBid internet auction system be deposited into the EMS ALS refunds and rebates.
Support.
I don't know, is that a two snowmobile trailer or one?
Was
Three,
yeah, it was 12-foot long by 7 or 8.
it's a big trailer.
Yeah.
What did EMS have a need for the snowmobile trailer?
You're gonna have to ask Fred Johnson that. So then, apparently, they've been housed at the Elmira Fire Department for the last, I don't know, since 2010 when it was purchased. And there was a snowmobile and a rescue sled. So they could go out into the woods to pick up like people that needed it out of the woods off trails, bring back. I would bet you that trailer was probably used ever. Because it looked brand new. It was built and purchased in 2010 and looked brand spanking new. Built bed, aluminum trailer, those little knobby things on the tires still. It just sat in Elmira's garage and finally Brad Drury just said,
Get rid of it,
I
please.
need to spank it, bring this back, and it shows up at station 2 and I'm like, what am I gonna do with this? And so, I tracked down and yeah, we did own it and so talked to Katie and I'm like, we're not gonna do nothing with it. And it's old
And the
enough. we might
sheriff's
as well
office
just
didn't
sell
need
it.
it either.
So Yeah, I even asked the sheriff's department if they wanted it.
Don't they have snowmobiles?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, but they have something else.
Fair enough.
Any more discussion? Roll call, please.
Cunningham? Yes.
Janat,
Yes.
Markey,
Yes.
Nye. Yes. Roloff,
Yes.
Sauer,
Yes.
Worsakki.
Yes.
Motion carried.
Item E, consider declaring the sheriff's 2006 snowmobile surplus and authorize its sale.
We have an old snowmobile that was, back in the corner of the garage that the undersheriff had found that isn't being used, won't be used. And so again, just as the trailer, we're getting rid of the snowmobile.
I'll
I
make
will
the
move that the 2006 Skidoo Bombardier Legend be declared surplus and authorized for sale on the MyBid Internet auction system with proceeds to be deposited into the Equipment Replacement Fund.
I will say the bright light of us cleaning the basement of the sheriff's office made a lot of cleaning happening on the campus, and we found these great things.
And that's
Second.
Bombardier.
What'd I say?
You do.
I don't know, Bombardier.
Close enough.
So we have a motion and support. Any further discussion? Roll call.
Janat,
Yes.
Markey,
Yes.
Nye. Yes. Roloff.
Yes.
Sauer,
Yes.
Worsakki.
Yes.
Cunningham.
Yes.
Motion carried.
Item F, distribution of 23-24 fiscal year draft budget and consider setting public hearing.
In the past, you have held a public hearing and passed out the budget at the same meeting. And that to me is interesting because how does the public comment on the budget when they've never had it? So we're doing things a little differently this year. We have distributed the draft budget to all of you. It'll be on the website and on Tammy's counter, and we're setting the public hearing for a later date. So we're giving the opportunity to the community and to yourselves to actually comment on the budget at the public hearing, which was the intention of a public hearing. So you have it in front of you. Jackie did a beautiful job of making a new cover this year, so thank her for that one. In here, it does look a little different than years past because of the chart of accounts. So things may be in a little bit different order when it comes to the numbers of the budgets. So don't just think, general funds always this tab because it might be a different tab now based on the changes to the chart of accounts. In here is the budget that incorporates the recommendations from our different meetings that we had at the board level and with staff. It is a balanced budget. Some of the exhibits, specifically general appropriations and the elected official salaries exhibit, there are still a couple of blanks because we're working on finalizing those numbers. Those blanks will be in there when we actually adopt the budget. So if you see some of those blanks, know that we're working on finalizing some of those things. So they'll be in there before we adopt the budget. But here's the draft budget for you. Go through it, make your thoughts and changes, and then once we hold the public hearing, then we'll adopt the budget and we'll give you an updated binder from there.
Katie, just for the record, when you say balanced budget, you mean that we didn't have to use surplus to balance the budget. Is that correct?
And that's correct. Yes.
Okay. So Janat moves that the board schedule a public hearing regarding the fiscal year 23-24 budget be scheduled on August 22nd of this year.
Second.
Motion and support. Any further discussion? Roll call, please.
Markey,
Yes.
Nye. Yes. Roloff,
Yes.
Sauer, Worsakki,
Yes.
Cunningham.
Yes.
Janat.
Yes.
Motion carried.
Item G, consider approving 2024 secondary road patrol agreement and grant application.
This is in your packet and it's like years in the past. We receive funding for the secondary road patrol program and there's an agreement that's related to that by the state.
I'd like to make a motion that the board approves the 2024 secondary road patrol agreement and accident prevention program grant application as presented and authorizes the chair to sign.
Markey will support.
Motion and support. Any further discussion? Roll call, please.
Nye. Yes. Roloff,
Yes.
Sauer,
Yes.
Worsakki,
Yes.
Cunningham.
Yes.
Janat.
Yes.
Markey.
Yes.
Motion carried.
We're ready. Commissioner reports, you have them in your packet. And Tim's. See, I'm not alone.
Yeah.
Go ahead, Tim.
Since our last meeting, which seemed a long time ago, at Homestead Township Board meeting, there was a lengthy discussion around the Dollar General's request to have Homestead Township and the Village of Honor enter into an intergovernmental agreement to extend Honor's sewer system to accommodate a site that Dollar General would like to build on. They tabled it. I think they're waiting for the representatives of Dollar General to come with a very specific request. Other than that was a business as usual. Rhonda did report on the Central Wellness Network Board meeting. Just one thing to add, the NMRE, the Northern Michigan Regional Entity, is requiring a deep audit of the Northern Lakes CMH. That's the one that Grand Traverse and Leila Buckford's in, that was having issues not so long ago. They're doing much better from what our understanding is. Dispatch Advisory Board, basically business as usual. We did have a presentation from the Region 7 Oxcom group. They're basically a group that helps with emergency communications in the event that we lose communication. That was pretty interesting. And we discussed the lower expansion on the Frankfurt Tower, pretty in depth there. The LPT, LAPC, Rebecca included that with her report. And the Senior Resources, Doug did a wonderful job there. I also attended the Central Wellness Network's Community Service and Relations meeting. The normal meeting reviewed the jail services, performance indicators, quality measures, and the NMRE critical incident reports. They all were normal, nothing sticking out. One last thing, International Overdose Awareness Day is August 31st. Central Wellness, along with Catholic Human Services, the NMRE, and Clean Lines Tattoo Company are hosting their annual recognition of International Overdose Awareness Day event from 10 a.m. to 3 p.m., starting at the Manistee City Hall front steps. And from noon to 3, there'll be vendors, lunch, and live entertainment. That's all I have.
Questions for Tim? So Domestic Violence Task Force, that committee has not met in quite some time, but we did meet last week. That's all of the agencies that cooperate with domestic violence, men and women. New faces in the crowd. Not a lot of stuff that is usually public knowledge, so don't talk about a lot of it, but everybody's doing great things to take care of our public when it comes to domestic violence. Area Agency on Aging, Northern Michigan. Apparently, I've been put on another meeting in coordination with their bylaws. It's called the Compliance Committee, which is going to meet monthly, apparently. So I'll look forward to moving in on that one. I think the MAC, Transportation and Infrastructure, comes back next month. So we'll see them. And normally at this meeting, I report on Benzie County Veterans Affairs, which is the Monday previous, but with the way the calendar is, that meeting is not until next week now. So but I will remind everybody the Benzie Central Frankfurt football game, Salute to Services, is September 8th at Benzie Central High School at 7 o'clock. There'll be a Coast Guard flyover, honor guard, and a lot of people, anybody that has to do with services, law enforcement, fire, EMS, veterans, let your people know. I've worked with the American Legion out of Frankfurt. Their honor guard will be there. Plus, they put some posters up in the hall to let everybody know. I've been met with Benzie Central's football coach, Jason Cott. As far as I know, things are looking very good. And I think I reported prior, but they're going to recognize Paul Miller, Benzie Central graduate, that was killed in action in Afghanistan 8 or 9 years ago. I would answer any questions if need be, if not.
Bob, just to not let you off the hook. The domestic violence group, without giving detail, because it sounds like there's some confidentiality there. What is the goal of that group?
For all these agencies to be able to work together and know the ins and outs and who can support who, and it generates, committee generates out of the prosecutor's office. And then all these fingers that touch from all the other agencies, so they just get in and share knowledge and resources and do their best to try to assist or prevent domestic violence, partly with education and when it happens, then try to get the people aware of what's going wrong and gone wrong and how to fix it.
So the people that make up this group, they may head up agencies that support these
Correct.
things.
Yep.
And if is then the domestic violence group, if someone were to call into them, you tell them where they need to go. Is
So
that
there's women's resource centers and all these different entities that provide services to battered women and men, and how to get things fixed up.
okay? And I'm just curious, does Benzie County still have a women's shelter here?
Annie, do you know that? So they don't have a woman's shelter per se, but if there is a female that needs a place, they do have resources as far as that's concerned.
Okay,
I know that for a fact. They don't make it too public. But there's a couple of local motels that the sheriff's department works with.
okay. Appreciate it.
And Bob, I have a question if you don't mind. Does this group, this coalition or whatever you want to call it, does it keep records of like if children are displaced or anything like that?
Oh, yeah. I mean, normally it's going through the legal process, so all of that
Okay.
stuff is
So we
going to
would-
be recorded.
Okay, so if kinship or something.
absolutely.
All right, good, thank you.
Yeah, if there's any laws that are violated, and
Okay,
if a man or a woman reports a domestic violence, then law enforcement's involved and it moves forward.
thank you.
If I could, I'd like to add something to my report.
You may.
So under economic development, everybody's well aware of the broadband initiative we've been pursuing for 3+ years. Just to let this group know, there's been some concern about people that are part of the consortium and what their role is in that. And that consortium is PFN, Eclipse, Cherry Capital, and there's a fourth one. Do you remember who the fourth? I think there's the fourth one.
No, there's not. It's just the three.
Just the three. So there's a meeting set up between Eclipse and Cherry Capital so that they can decide among themselves about which role each of them are playing.
Mhm.
I'm putting it out today because if there's a temptation for any member of this group to want to attend that meeting, that's a closed meeting. That is not an open to the public. That is just between two private entities. We may have our project manager there, but not to negotiate anything, just to kind of listen in on the conversation.
Trying to facilitate.
Yeah, so just some clarity that, because that's come up at a couple of EDC meetings. Just wanted to be sure people understood what was happening.
Yeah,
And-
go ahead.
No, I just wanted to have a brief conversation if everybody would humor me on this. Are we okay with the way we're doing the commissioner reports? I don't like the inconsistency of it. I don't like how a portion of us are submitting written reports and then we're adding to it but some are giving verbal reports. I just want to make sure that this body is comfortable with what this has evolved into. It's not consistent. I almost wonder if the people who are submitting reports should actually give a verbal report based on that report at the meetings. It gives the optic that there are only a couple people who are attending meetings, which isn't the case. We're all going to the meetings that we're assigned to. So I just asked a question. Is everybody happy with how this is being conducted? And if everybody is, that's fine. But it does seem to me that it's inconsistent.
I'll respond briefly. There has been some input from the public that some of these folks like to hear what we've done verbally during an open meeting rather than go online and look at commissioner reports. Kind of like that's why one of the reasons they come is to hear how we interact and what we've been doing. So take it for what it's worth.
What I kind of do a hybrid with that, for example, going to Lake Township or Crystal Lake. I'll go up to the super beforehand and say, they get my report ahead of time that's emailed. And I'll say, I'm going to highlight these 2 or 3 topics. But the rest, and then when I'm receiving my report, I say it is online for your perusal. And today I'm going to just highlight just for, that gives some information. And then the super usually would say to me, yes, or could you include this? Or yes, we understand that. But then it's kind of a hybrid. I like the idea that there is written report and that my townships are posting those. And, with it being said with each time that Art and I at Lake, we say that it's online and then they make copies. To me, I like the way it is, and it seems to be a bit of a solution. So you're not going through all dozen or whatever things that, we've attended. I think the public is getting used to it. At least that's the little bit of feedback that I've received. So I think it's great that we're doing them.
So
I'm not opposed to the written report. I'm just wondering if we should be summarizing in this meeting.
Right, that's why I said.
Even though there's a written, because we all report to our meetings, what we've been, for the majority of our meetings, what we do here at the county.
Right.
And where we attend. So it's nice to have that written. So I was just looking for feedback. I appreciate that. Thank you.
Sure.
My comments would be that I've been doing this for over 6 years. And most of the time, people tell me they appreciate the fact that they can read my report.
Right.
And what it's also done for me is there's no question about what I said. Because I have seen where there's other groups that are in attendance at our meetings, whether it be at the township level or here, they're taking notes, then reporting back to their group. They couldn't have been further from what my report was.
Totally agree. But would you say that the people listening today or the people who take the time to attend in the room should have to reference the packet to read the report? Or should we be giving a summary of our report in the meeting as well?
Yeah, that's a fair question. I'm not prepared to answer that.
Right.
And making an addition at the last moment, like today, I just want to make sure everybody understood about that meeting because I've heard some dialogue, but normally I don't have anything to add to my report, so.
But, well, and that's the point, that the people listening and the people in the room, maybe they haven't gone to the site. Maybe that's why they're attending, is to get a firsthand account of where you've been and what you've done, and want to hear they want to hear what you're reporting on, what the people who do go to the packet are reading about.
Yeah. Well, we have a limited attendance here today, but I guess we have a small sampling we could ask.
Oh,
Yeah, I would ask Dr. Schaefer if he's willing.
There's no question that written reports are important because that's a legal thing that you can always refer to. But I do not think it takes away from an oral summarization or report to the public, because some either don't have access or can't look at it. I think it's not an either or. I think it's both.
And that's what we talked about at the last meeting.
That's exactly right.
I agree. I think it's very prudent that we do summarize. And of course, there's always 2 or 3 meetings that you don't catch. It's near the end. That's the way I look at it. That I'll go ahead. I'm
Oh, go ahead.
attended the Iron Man deal. They have currently 1,625 people signed up for the event. They anticipate to lose about 10%. Don't show. This year they have a pro athlete in the race. Gonna start them a few minutes early, which is kind of interesting. These folks make a living doing this. And I thought that was very interesting. The other thing was state police currently have no motorcycles. They don't put officers on bikes. I didn't know that either. That was kind of different.
High liability.
Mm-hmm.
Well, they work good for the Iron Man, but yeah, I understand that. And the other two things I wanted to comment was Tim Malone came to Blaine and we discussed Mercury. And they're tying up the thing through RDOF and what could possibly be done. Tim has been, I'll throw him under the bus, but he has contacts with these folks. Well, maybe there's something, a lot of the residents are upset that they were awarded money. They have till 28 to do something. And it looks like everything Mercury's doing is downstate where the money is, Grand Rapids area. I mean, businesses are businesses. And the last thing that caught my attention this time was the Metro Act. And I am not versed in it, but they overpaid Joyfield about $9,000. They underpaid our township just shy of about $2,200. And the letter that my wife finally got as treasurer says that they will not get reimbursed till next year. And the ones that were overpaid immediately want their money back. So, and this is not the folks contributing to the Metro Act. These are the folks that are distributing the funds. So it's a government agency. Just wanted you to be aware of it because I'm sure you're going to hear about it. Thank you.
Oh, Gary, I do have a question. I'm sorry, Bob, did you want to go? With respect to the road commission, they didn't get that grant that they applied for. Does that change the timing or anything related to Platte River Elementary as they pursue that project?
The board asked him to proceed with asbestos removal, or at least get bids on that. Sounds like the road commission is to do all they can to demolish at least the concrete and stuff and do crush concrete and the bricks and everything. So they're gonna do a lot of in-house stuff if they can. In fact, I don't know for sure, but it sounds like they're gonna put a berm across the front just to keep spectators from checking it out. But as far as I know, they are gonna proceed. I can't give you an exact.
Okay.
All right, Katie.
Just a couple of things for me on the note of Mercury Wireless. I've been trying to set up a meeting with Scott Clark. He's their representative for Mercury Wireless. So hopefully I'll learn some things from him as to what's going on with them and their group and when they're going to start moving forward with Benzie County, because I too have heard a lot of complaints from that end of the county as to, well, what about us? So I am trying to set up a time with Scott Clark. Our schedules have just been kind of conflicting, but hopefully soon. So maybe I'll have some info on that because I'm not a threat as a competitor. And so I'm hoping he's a little more open with me as to what they're doing.
Katie, are you aware that Mitch Shapiro is in contact with them?
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Yeah. The new website is published. Very exciting. If there's an issue with the website, please let us know because it has just been published. So if there's issues, changes, whatever, let me know. If it is popping up weird, you need to clear your browser history. So the internet is a tricky thing where when you go to a website all the time, it just pulls from the history. And so when you do an update like that, it can cause things to go kittywampus. So like Gary this morning, couldn't get it to open properly. I cleared out his history, bam, pops up normal. So if you're having those issues, make sure you're clearing out your histories of your internet browsers, because that really could be the issue of it looking funny. if there's tweaks or changes to the different pages or pictures or what have you, just let us know and we can work through that. But the new website has been published, so we're excited about that. Opioid RFP has been published as well. We're waiting for proposals to come in. We've received one proposal that I've seen so far. That's a joint proposal from our Emergency Management Dispatch and Sheriff's Office. So hopefully we'll get more of those coming in soon. We still have received about $100,000 to date, but I do see 2 pending payments in our portal for about $24,000. So we will have more money coming in soon to the treasurer's office. Many of you have probably heard because I've been out, but for Point Betsy Restoration Project, they only received 1 bid. And so they are not moving forward with that project as of right now. They're hopeful to republish an RFP in 2024 for possible construction in 2025. So that was a letdown because they had quite a few people asking questions and looking over the project. And so they were very hopeful for more, but at the end of the day, they only received 1. So they're hoping to take another stab at that next year. I just want to thank everybody for reaching out to me during this time. We had a lot of fun before things spiraled out of control. So I appreciate everybody being flexible and working with Jackie and Sherry because I've been out. They've been rock stars. I couldn't have did it without them. So I just want to say thank you to everybody. That's all I have.
Thank you. No study session from last couple of weeks ago, no committee appointments, unfinished business. New business presentations. Brings us to our final public input. Yes, ma'am.
So I sit on the Domestic Violence Task Force Board, and I don't think it's inappropriate to say that a very good example came out of last meeting is we were seeing a trend in the age groups of domestic violence. And so where one component says, hey, we're seeing a trend that there's some younger people involved in domestic violence cases. The additional group that would be the Central Wellness, and they have what are they? Workers in the schools and whatnot. They're actually taking that and increasing programs in the school that might help deter domestic violence in younger individuals. So it does have great components that work just based on what we see in trending and how we can help our community. So one person reported some information, the other person that has the means took it and is going to actually implement some programming to help our people. That's a kind of what that program does.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah.
Thanks, Becky. Anybody else? You're thinking? Yeah.
Annie Browning, Village of Beulah, Pennsylvania Township. And I was just commenting today, I heard so many great things. It was such a pleasure just seeing you all work together and the government work together. Things, information moves along. Anyway, it was really encouraging. And so I just want to guess that's my 2 cents. But I will share that the Village of Beulah, I'm on chair of Hauling Grounds. I think I've told you. And so we started the planning commission. So I've heard you mention that. I really think that's so important. Planning. We should be planning for the future. That's my plug for that. Also with the, because I'm not done, Village of Beulah, I've been struggling with getting an estimate for somebody to clear our stormwater sewer or pond. Stormwater, not a sewer. I used the wrong word. Stormwater pond for the runoff. Maybe I shouldn't talk. Anyway, so I'm struggling to do that. I'll get there though. So thank you.
Thanks, Annie. So we're gonna roll right into study session that has moved into this morning's meeting. Jackie, do you have any updates you want to share?
Morning. I just wanted to give a brief update on just a few items. We're holding correction interviews this week. I just found out today we had another person resign, so we'll be looking for 2 corrections officers. We have 1 employee still out on work comp, and then we had an additional 2 report only. Good news that all of our FMLA will end by the end of the month, so we'll be back to full staff from any medical leaves. And then one last quick thing is open enrollment date switched to August 23rd. So we're going to do a morning session down here at the Gov Center and then head up the hill to the sheriff's office for an additional one in the afternoon. And then the employee navigator portal will be open for the 2 weeks following. We're going to do a passive enrollment. So what that means is anyone who is not making any changes does not even have to go into the portal. So unless you're making changes to your benefits, you do not have to enter any information. The only exception is a flexible spending account. You are required to re-enroll in that every year. So I'll be sending out some verbiage here in the near future, going over that once I get the new employee benefit guide from Advantage Benefit Group. So that's all I have for you, unless you guys have any questions.
Thank you.
Okay, great. Thank you.
22-23 budget trial balance review.
So in your packet for the study session, there is a 96-page trial balance, and that is as of July 31st of 2023. I do apologize that the percentages were left off on that. I have a custom reports set up in my BSNA, and those don't always talk to everybody. So when Jackie had run the report, it left out the percentages. She was able to get those though. But looking at the trial balance, things really are not that bad from an overall perspective. And like I said in the email that I sent you, we're at about a 73% utilization of what we've budgeted, and we're well over 80% through the fiscal year. So we are doing quite well. There are some departments that are, not doing as well, specifically equalization department. That one was a little off because we had a lot of moving and shaking that was happening with the different contracted services, a new director. We had an interim person in there. And so that one's pretty far off. But that is within the general fund. And so we will shore that up as we approach here the end of the fiscal year, and we'll make sure those different departments are balanced out. But overall, things don't look bad. We're pretty well on track as far as budgeting goes and expenditures goes. We are monitoring some funds a little closer than others, specifically the jail fund, just because things, get a little tighter there. There's not as much leeway in, funds such as the jail fund and animal control, like there may be in other funds. Animal control is another one. Like I said, we're monitoring closely because of the way the funding worked out with the missed millage. And then we have a lot of changes happening up there. We had to get a new vehicle because we had to get a new vehicle. It wasn't necessarily planned for. And then there's other things that are needing to be changed up there that are just simply things we have to do, and we didn't anticipate them. And so we're working through that to make sure that we're not, blowing the budget completely, but those ones are a bit tighter than, the overall general fund is. But really overall, we're in a good position for this fiscal year. I don't know if anyone had any questions on specific departments that you wanted to look at and maybe talk through some things. That was up to you, but I wanted to bring this in front of you to show you where we're at.
Katie, only because you brought it up at the jail. The taxpayer, the voters agreed to raise the assessment on that.
Yep.
Is there any risk that we're going to have to dip into the general fund to balance that out for the year?
Not this year, and as budgeted for next year, no.
Okay.
But the trouble that, we're running into is it's really a mindset and a process shift. We've talked about in the past that me as an appointed official and you as the board don't really have a lot of say in how an elected official's department spends their money. And so we're really trying to work hard to shift the mindset, because the mindset for quite a long time is, well, if we got it, we better spend it.
Right.
And, maybe we're going to inflate that budget because, maybe we want this. And so we're trying to be diligent in the sense of, for instance, this year, the original jail budget had everybody getting brand new uniforms again. I'm like, well, wait a minute, we've bought brand new uniforms for everybody last year. So why would we fully budget that again? And so we're trying to shift that mindset of let's not just spend it because we have it. We need to spend what exactly we need, not just because. And so we're working through that. Shifts are being made and things are tightening up a lot, but there's just not the wiggle room. The jail fund doesn't really even have a fund balance at this point. You know, they have like $53,000, I think it is. And in reality, they should have a lot more of that because their budget's over $2 million. And so things are tight. And so we're constantly monitoring those things and saying, but do you really need that? But do you really need that? And just like with the budgeting for next year, it's, well, but you did this. Did you remember? Let's bring this down. And that's why we're really focusing on, do you really need that van? Do you really need that staff? You know, that's why we're doing the staffing analysis. And that's why we're, you know, taking a step back of really, do they need those transport vans? Because they have two and they're not transporting a whole lot. The primary use of those vehicles has really been for staff trainings. They're using them for staff trainings. They're not using them as much for transports. Are we doing transports? Absolutely. But that's not the primary use of them. And so really trying to evaluate the true needs of that department, because I don't want to dip into the general fund. And I told the community we wouldn't. That last levy of that jail fund is this November. So we will be going back out next year for the jail millage again. At this point, I don't anticipate a raise. I anticipate just a renew for next year.
And I think we had an education campaign letting the public know that the jail should be, there's an understanding. I think that the public thought that the jail was being supported by the millage, and it wasn't
At that
time. And so they heeded the call and rose up and decided to support it as a community. And so it's just, that's a hard stop for me, that the jail work within the budget that the taxpayers have provided.
Correct. And so that's why we're constantly closely monitoring them, because we made a commitment to the community. So we're just constantly working to shift that mindset, because what isn't understood always is that budget is different than cash. And just because you budget it doesn't mean the cash is there. And we also have to just be very diligent about what we truly need versus what we might want. Is it a need or is it a want? And so we're focusing on that. You know, getting through this fiscal year and next fiscal year without touching the general fund, we have fulfilled our commitment to the community, because we only did a 2-year millage. So we're fulfilling that to the community. And so I hope the community, you know, their trust is growing with us because we made that commitment and we're holding through to it. So that's very important to note, is for that funding structure that we put in place, we're holding our commitment to the community. Absolutely.
And I'd like to see them begin building that surplus.
And I indicated that to them as well. And I believe in an email to all of you, when I sent out the budget documents, I stressed they need to be working on building that surplus. Absolutely. It just gets tricky because I can't tell them how to spend their money. My only opportunity is to say no when they're out of money. So we need to be very conscientious of that.
That's the message you have to give, is like, you gotta be very diligent, because when you come and ask for more, the answer is gonna be no.
Correct.
Because you
And
should have money.
that's what I've stressed is, you know, you really have to live within your means, because we're going to say no. And so, and that's where, and I don't want to get to that point in Benzie, because I think we have pretty good relationships up there, but that's why in a lot of counties they only fund the bare minimum to operate, and they have to come to the board for everything else. So, and then that's a very hands-on micromanaging approach, but that's how those boards can accomplish that, is we're giving you the bare minimum to operate. You have to come to the board for everything else. So I don't want to get there. I don't think we're there yet. Things are going well. But if we can't fully shift that mindset of need versus want, that may be something we have to explore in the future.
Well, they need to be cognizant of what their capital needs are going to be.
Yep.
And we already have that plan laid out there. And they need to be budgeting towards that.
Yep.
Using their millage to budget towards it, not think this is only for operations and I'll worry about the general fund funding capital expenditures.
And that was the mindset also too, was, well, this is just operating. You're going to pay for the general fund, from the general fund for your other things. And, you know, it got a little heated a few months ago Because I'm like, that's not how this works, period. And you have to be forthcoming of the true needs that you need and what you need. You can't just throw it in last minute. And so that, you know, there was a little tension there because I wasn't happy. Because it's okay, we balanced the budget, but then here's my list of 37 items we need. Well, if that doesn't work, now you got to make cuts elsewhere because I'm not paying for it.
I'm glad that you're working with them and I
Yeah.
have full confidence that they understand, the current administration understands that they need to become self-sufficient.
Correct.
That's the whole idea.
Yep.
I would hate to penalize the community because of lack of due diligence.
Yes. Yeah. So you will notice in the jail fund this year or this upcoming budget year, you will see a transfer to the 401 for capital items. We shifted numbers so that they had additional funding to go to capital to pay for the capital items that they need. Now they're not getting every capital item. So it's what's the priority here? And that's what we've determined is what's the priority for next year. And then they need to just continuously think about that. Where can they cut? And I don't say cut in the sense that they have to cut things, but where can they be more lean? Where are the true needs versus the want? Maybe this want is 3 years down the road instead of today.
Right.
So. I'll be the prick. So is it a management? Is it a management issue?
Don't hold back,
And
Gary.
I mean, we can't do anything about an elected official. Rest of the staff. I know it's a mindset. It's always been a mindset. They've always come here for everything they wanted.
Yes.
And we always, I mean, we're throwing $400,000 to $500,000 a year out of the general fund, keep them afloat.
Correct.
And I don't know how you can change it that quickly. I mean, I applaud you for being so willing to try. But the other option we have is we don't give them at all. And is that, I don't want to go there yet, but is that
It's on
a
the,
strong possibility?
yes, if we're running into these troubles, that's your opportunity to try to manage it as you're holding it back. You know, the other part that you can do is you have to say no. I have a whole family of law enforcement, first responders and public safety. And I know there's needs that they need. And I know that the community sees police and fire and EMS and they want to give them the world. And that's a mindset thing.
Right.
And you as a board have to be strong and to not get caught up in that. If they need something, yes, absolutely, we need to provide it, especially if it's officer safety and inmate safety and health and wellness. We need to provide those things. But we can't get caught up in them. Well, they do a lot for us. So here you can have all these things. We
And
have to
that's
make
it.
sure we're not
And
getting
that
caught
was
up
the
in that.
perception.
Yeah,
The other thing with that survey that they're doing, that could go either way.
absolutely.
That could change the dynamics of this 100%, and that kind of spooks me too, so.
Yep,
Thank you.
absolutely.
Glad you let me vent.
Of course. And I do want to say there are a lot of good eggs up there and a lot of people who are willing to work, you know, but just as anything, one bad apple sometimes can spoil the whole pack. So, but there's so many good people up there and there are very mindful people up there. Don't get me wrong. There are very mindful people up there and the trend is happening.
I
Just
didn't
takes
want
time.
anybody to get the impression
I
I
know.
highly respect everybody up in this whole organization. It's just that financially, you said they need to change their mindset.
Yeah. We don't need to paint the walls every year,
No,
maybe every other. So
you.
it's just things like that. Was there any other questions on the trial balance that you wanted to go over a specific department or anything like that? That anyone had any questions on?
And I hope everybody else got it. I did get the updated version of the trial balance with the percentages on it.
I'm not sure. I didn't go through my emails yet. You have to ask Jackie.
Did I just get that? Yeah, okay.
Dudley?
Hadley. So I strongly believe that we need a year to properly educate the community on the need. And so if that is the case, we need to take some action now. Because it would be in our best interest that if we're going to go out for a Headley reset, we do it during 2024 when there's already elections on the books. So we're not paying additional funding for an election when we're asking for more money. Semantics are big here. So if we want to address Headley in 2024, I need to know from you now that that's where we're leaning so that we can start that process, the process of adopting a resolution to say we want to reset, to determine the reset, and then to properly really educate the community on the need and what it means for not only the county, but the various townships within the county. And so I need to hear from you now, because if we do it now, we have a potential for August and then also November, or maybe just November, but I need to know now. How are we feeling about Headley? There's been a lot of mixed reviews about it because yes, we need it, but then the books look good. So do we need it now? And how do we justify it to the community that we need it when the books look okay today? So there's a lot of time and processing that's going to go into that and how to message that need or that want to the community. So I need to hear from you how you're all feeling as to whether or not we're moving forward now. And if we're not, when do we move forward?
So we began this conversation 7 years ago.
I know you did.
And there was a period of time that it looked like we were ready to present it to the community, and then COVID hit. And then after that, there started to be some influx of monies. And I hear what you're saying about trying to defend, look at, you got a balanced budget,
Right.
revenue to expenditures, but we want more.
Correct.
The key here is about capital improvements,
Mhm.
deferred maintenances. We have been able to do a lot of things that previous boards haven't been able to do. But that's gonna go away.
Correct.
And to me, there's no doubt in my mind that we need to pursue this, and we kicked this can down the road for reasons that made sense. But I think we're done doing that. I think we got to pursue it.
And as we tighten up our capital plan and really predict or guess, what the future is going to look like, that is something we can go to the community with. Absolutely. I mean, just looking at the plan of what we have in now, it looks good for this year, looks good for next year. But as we continue to get down that capital plan, the costs just rise, and they're just going to. And that's where we're going to go from here, and we're going to start doing here and then here in the next couple of years. So it's all about planning. That's why I'm here asking you.
And I think some of the message we have to put out there, it's not that we need more, we need to fix an issue that was not addressed decades ago. Right? I mean, we can say, we're not looking for more money, we're just looking to fix this. So we're not handcuffed going forward.
Right.
So Headley doesn't mess this up every time. We had that, I don't remember what they called it. It said we were gonna be bankrupt in 3 years.
That was a 5-year straight or outlook.
We should be bankrupt right now. Yeah.
Just saying. The hard sell to the public. Always, to me, you always have to keep in mind who's paying the taxes.
Mhm.
It's mom and pop that owns the farm. It's the grocery store. It's the businesses. Where do you stop putting burden on them? Because they're paying the inflation too. As long as we're as long as we don't go crazy, go back to 5.29, unless we're gonna eliminate a bunch of it. We went through this before.
Mhm.
That's a tough sell too. I like the idea of being able to go back every so often and say we need to reset it. I'm not sure Manistee is the correct way to do it, the way they do it. But that's how they are able to finance themselves quite often, is because every so many years they can go back. They don't just keep getting reduced by head.
Yeah, I think they're on a 5-year plan. Every
Every 5
5
years?
years, they reset. And we can be on that same plan. We can reset. You have the opportunity to not levy that. So
Right,
that's,
right.
and that's a part of the messaging is we want to reset. So the opportunity's there, but the need may not be there this year.
We need the mechanism in place. We don't have to levy the full amount.
Mhm.
And I think we all need to be cognizant of what our townships are going through. I mean, I
Yes.
am at my last meeting at my township, it's in my report. The treasurer made it very clear. They started at 1.2 mils and they are operating at 0.76 now. And that's big for a township.
Huge.
And they don't reset unless
We reset.
we reset.
But you also have townships that have
That are doing very
considerably
well.
unlimited
Yes.
funds.
Absolutely.
And
Not every
that-
picture is the same
Yeah.
scenario.
So,
To me, the bottom line is the ability to have the mechanism in place if it's needed.
right,
And we don't have that now.
no, we don't.
Yeah,
I
each-
think the mechanism, oh, I'm sorry, Art, but the mechanism in place, I think that is really important. But also the education, so they, even though we all know this, the ARPA funds and everything are a one-time deal that we're getting. But to reiterate that and say that, you know, that was kind of a grace, if you will, for us. So keep all of that information out in the public too, so they understand. It makes it a little less harsh, I think. But I agree with the mechanism, having that identified for
And
it.
we need the townships to do the same.
Yes.
The ones
Yeah.
that need it. And
Consistency.
also, are they well received by the public that if they don't need it, you can name one and I won't. You probably should not levy that much money. Are you prudent enough to do it? I watched some townships get by on the bare minimum. We actually spent more money on the library in Frankfurt than the township operates on. And that,
Well, again, though, it depends on how progressive each of the communities are.
right,
If you're referring to Benzonia Township's a progressive community and they're embracing growth and they need the money to grow, whether it be for their parks or economic development, same way with Frankfurt. Yet there'll be some outlying townships that, in my opinion, they got plenty of money in the coffers, probably can afford not to charge you at all for a year. But the point I want to stress here is that there are services that we are going to have to deliver that we don't even know what they are yet. Because the environment's changing, the culture is changing, the demographics are changing. People that are moving from where they're currently at up here, they're expecting the same services as they were getting in Southeast Michigan.
Yep.
And I don't know if this is a great example, but when we were talking about this group earlier, Bob, the domestic violence. You know, I'd love to tell you that's going away, but it's not going to go away. And as your community grows, there's greater need. And I'm sure we all feel strongly about the fact that these folks need support. So it's not just about paying the bills today. It's about being visionary and knowing, where is my community going? And that's my ask. It's not, can I get more money to pay the bills today because it makes my job easier? It's, I think I see where we're going and it's going to cost us more money. It's just a fact of economics.
I think it's important that we do the reset, but I also think it's gonna be educational because, yeah, some people know that we've been good about money. But truth be told, 95% of the people don't pay attention to anything we do.
Correct.
So they're just gonna see, oh, they want more money.
They want to raise my taxes.
They want to raise my taxes, right? I would say 98% of the people don't pay any attention, right? So it's gonna be big on education.
And I think, we've laid some success on the ground to build that trust in our community. And so we're into a good time, with the jail specifically, and these, the school resource, we're bringing that levy down because we don't need it. And so we're really building that trust foundation in the community. So that's very helpful in this whole endeavor. And so that's what we need to focus on.
And let's not forget that of 83 counties, there were only 6 counties that didn't have a reset.
I think it's down to 2 or 3 now.
Well, now, but I mean, based on my research back in the 80s,
Yeah.
only 6 out of the 83 counties. So we were, right out of the gate, we were going to be behind the 8 ball.
Yep.
So I think the messaging and this educational component is very important. It's
Yes.
very important that it's uniform. that we're all on the same page with why the county is moving forward with this. I think maybe our next study session, we can drill down on what the key points are, or we should do that, whatever timetable you think is prudent. Am I correct in understanding if we were to set this in motion and we compose the allocation board in the way it's defined by statute? Am I saying that right? Allocation, just say, correct me. I see you going.
There's the advisory and then the allocation board.
So it's the advisory committee.
Yes.
Okay, so when we establish the advisory committee, which is based on statute.
Yes.
Its makeup, they're gonna come forward with a recommendation. And at that point, we can support or decline whatever they come up with. Is that correct?
Yes.
Okay.
So, because we're not redoing the allocations, that's my understanding from past meetings. We don't want to redo the allocations. We just want to reset what's in place. So that is the less cumbersome process because there's not the actual advisory board that has to be brought forward or the allocation board that has to be brought forward. It's more of an advisory. You will adopt a resolution of your intent of what you would like to try to do. That's when that group comes together and we sit down and say, okay, are we resetting back to the originals or are we resetting back to this value instead? And then that'll come before this board for the okay. And then that's when the hard work really starts of educating the campaign or the community on the need. So I believe what I'm hearing from all of you is to bring forward that resolution of intent that we plan to start going down this road to reset, not reallocate. Am I understanding all of you correctly?
Yes, and then identify the education process.
Yeah, so after I'll put the resolution on for next meeting. And then that study session in September, we can start talking about what your bullets are. Okay, you didn't shake your head.
It's shaking.
I'm good.
Good. Okay, so that'll be my plan.
A hoof out of it.
Next agenda, we'll have that resolution on there that says this is what we intend to start doing. And then we'll plan for the August and and then maybe November in 2024. Although August could be July now or something.
You have those stats as well that where you had mentioned we're one of 2 or 3. Now,
Yeah.
can we, make sure we know that too?
Yeah, the state tax commission releases an Excel spreadsheet that has every millage levied at the county level across the state of Michigan. And so I can pull that Excel spreadsheet for you guys because it's kind of fun to see too, what the counties are levying. You know, we level all these special millages. What other counties are levying, 1 million special millages or 1. And so that'll be helpful for you as well to kind of compare
That'd be
to
great
counties across
information.
the state. And so the state tax commission does release that Excel spreadsheet every year and it,
I love spreadsheet.
I know. So and it's every county
Easy.
breaks down and then they even have it down to the local city village as well and townships. So I will pull those spreadsheets and get those out to you so you guys can see what's being levied across the state.
And maybe highlight like counties or something.
I can highlight comparables. Yeah.
It's talking.
Why don't I remember the number 11, that we were one of 11 out of 83 that couldn't reset?
And that may have been
Anybody
at one
remember
point.
that?
Yeah.
That's
The number, but there weren't many.
Yeah. Mhm.
And maybe find a simple, easy definition of Headley to try and explain it, because it's a wee bit
Administration has already
complicated.
made a pretty easy.
We have the
easy to
booklet.
navigate.
And so
Yeah.
we'll go over that booklet again and kind of revamp that booklet. But that booklet covers more than just Headley. It covers, taxes and such. So then we'll revamp that booklet and really publish that booklet out. But then we'll kind of move to some more of that pinpointing strategy from there. So, but we do have that booklet that's almost 2 years old now. So it's due for an update anyways. Yeah. That's what I had. So you'll see a resolution at your next meeting.
Approve the
Study session made July 11th. Need a motion to.
motion to approve the study session minutes from July 11th. Motion by Gary,
And,
Second.
seconded. All those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? No, so
Thank
moved.
you.
Keep us.
Wasn't on my agenda.
We didn't even put the agenda, anyway.
I don't know if you did.
Katie, that resolution, that'll come to the next board, not study session, right?
Correct. So it'll be the August 22nd meeting. You'll see that resolution in the packet for approval.
Just an observation on the new website, we're still calling the afternoon meeting the committee of the whole. Do we want to change that on the website to study session?
Yes, we'll make that update.
Any more business?
Want to ask one question? Tammy, any updates on the election?
Nothing yet. I go to conference on the 20th. And that's when I will have a full day with the Bureau of Elections. County clerk will be at a meeting and we're having a full day with the Bureau of Elections. So
That sounds
I'm hoping
amazing.
at that time
Exciting. Hopefully we get some answers.
we get some answers.
Steve. Bushville got their new drop box.
Mm-hmm.
Good for them.
Nobody has a clue. Oh. Anyway.
All right.
thank you.
Any public input again? Close public input.
So moved.
Thanks, Art. Who seconded it?
I'll second.
All right, thanks, Gary. All those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye, 12:03.
We did all right. Trying to make this a half a day job forever.
Whoa.
Sit around